across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 electric hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, August the 24th. Here's what's coming up. Memo to those scions of socialist equality, Dame Emily Thornberry and Lord David Blunkett. You little Labourites can touch your forelocks, bow your heads and declare that taxpayers should pay the dim Duke Harry's £5 million a year security bill as much as you like. But we don't want to, and we're not going to. Be them ever so humble dinosaurs of the class structure society, Emily and Dave know their place. But I don't, and I'm pretty certain you don't. And if that pair of useless grifters, Harry and Meghan, think we're handing over a red cent to underwrite their privileged lifestyle, they've got another thing coming, right? 0344 499 1000. In other news, apart from the £5 million a night it costs to house the illegal migrants who break into Britain unlawfully, it turns out that our gormless government is shelling out a further £500,000 every single day. £500,000, £500,000 every single day, ferrying our unwanted visitors around the country to find them places to stay free of charge. Isn't that special? Aren't you sick of it? Meanwhile, Andy Burnham says Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. In what way, Andy? After more than 3,500 chances unlawfully crossed the channel since you waltzed into Downing Street, in what way is your plan to stop the boats working? Please tell us, because I'm damned if I can see it's working, and I'm pretty certain no one else can see how it's working either. In what way is your plan to stop the boats working, Burnham? 0344 499 1000. Now, of course, busboy Burnham has done what all British Prime Ministers are apparently contracted to do and flown off to Kiev to declare his undying love for Ukraine and to ensure Zelensky that no matter how much cash-strapped Brits taxpayers are suffering, he'll carry on sending their money to fund the foreign war in the East. It's fine by Andy. Is it fine by you? 0344 499 1000. Also, on today's action-packed show, Burnham's favourite left-wing economist tells the Prime Minister to forget about the pointless wealth tax and start cutting the obscenely vast £350 billion a year welfare bill as a matter of urgency. It's crucial, but will he? Don't bet the farm on it. 0344 499 1000. Plus, despite the clear truth that Sikh killer Vikram Digwa lied about his victims Henry Novak's alleged racism, Hampshire police maintained an obsession with proving that the poor guy was indeed a racist, which he wasn't. Records documenting this sad case reveal that the cops obsessively trawled through Henry's social media posts going back 6 years to when he was a kid, aged 12. Some might say this is proof of classic police anti-white racism, strong evidence that the right on Rozzers always side with people of colour. But of course, I couldn't possibly comment. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. And also, St Gary's at it again, sharing another anti-Semitic social media post. This one likens Zionism to Nazism. If you believe that Jewish people deserve their own country, apparently you're a Nazi. Really? Is that what BBC reject Lineker actually thinks? Or does he not quite understand what he's talking about, the poor dim soul? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Is he a Jew hater, Gary? Is he anti-Semitic, or is he just thick? 03444991000. And finally, gender fluid cops are being issued with 2 different ID cards, depending on what sex they feel like identifying as on any particular day. And on that balmy bombshell, I officially declare British policing to have gone stark staring mad. 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together, and for the first 20 minutes or so, I will spend that time in the excellent company of Talk's ace reporter, Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be here. What a monologue. My goodness. Happy Monday.
Unhappy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Well, first of all, let's talk about that ludicrous thing. I've got Mike Neville coming in a bit later to talk about this and the Vikram Digwa issue, but we'll save the murder of poor Henry Novak for later. But what's your take? 3 forces in this country, Suffolk, Norfolk, I believe, and one other are handing out, Leicestershire, are handing out male and female warrant cards to officers who believe they're gender fluid, so that when they wake up in the morning, they can decide what sex, male or female, they fancy identifying as today and take the appropriate ID card. As I just said, I hereby declare British policing stark staring mad. That is insane.
It is actually insane, and as some other police officers and MPs have said, it's a massive security risk as well. I mean, lose one of your identity cards, someone could take that up and start, you know, basically emulating you or impersonating you. There's also the very dark issue that we need to talk about of the fact that if there was a strip and search in this country, it is a requirement that someone of your gender takes care of that strip and search and conducts it. What's going to happen in a situation where someone turns up to work and decides to identify as another woman when is a biological man, and then ends up doing a strip and search of a potential very vulnerable, I don't know, drug addict who's been sexually assaulted, etc. I mean, I know I'm coming up with a hypothetical here, but it's something that honestly we might be reporting on in a couple of months because it has actually happened because of this reckless policy. It's very concerning. And, you know, the Supreme Courts, they made up their mind. They told us what a biological woman was. It took 88 pages to explain that. And still, we are having these issues. And we need to separate gender and sex. Let's talk about gender, for example.
They're the same thing.
Well,
they're the same thing. Gender means, you know, gender refers to whether or not you're male or female. Sex refers to whether or not you're male or female.
Precisely.
The trans gang have hijacked the word gender and given it a different meaning to what it actually means.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And also, I just don't understand why the police force can't go, OK, this is basically like a medical certificate. You know, if you were going to the doctor and you were a biological male, you would put M on your form. And they don't want to do that here. And I think that's really concerning. And I can see how this can get used and abused. I mean, just take the Darlington nurses case, which you did a lot of work on, Kev, for example, and how the gender fluidity of Rose was totally used to mock these nurses and make their lives a living hell. And unfortunately, within the NHS, within policing, we keep seeing woke being overrun, or them being overrun by woke.
I couldn't agree with you more, but here's the deal, folks. Let me know what you feel about this. So now, if cops feel that they're gender fluid, they're not quite sure whether they're a man or a woman, I mean, you know, maybe go and get a bit of psychiatric help. But if that really is your dilemma, you know, fine. Live your life how you want to live. But in terms of the police force, you better make up your mind. You're not getting 2 warrant cards according to which sex you feel like identifying with on any any particular day. That's mad. That is wokery gone insane, and we don't want this nonsense in our police force. Just go out and catch the bad guys. It's as simple as this. This is wokery. This is craziness, and this is why, half the reason why the police all over the country are doing just such a dreadful job of keeping the people of Britain safe, of catching criminals, because they're obsessed with whether or not their officers are gender fluid. Do me a favour. Really? Really? Come on. We want common sense. We don't want this anymore, do we, folks? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Let's quickly do this as well, Samara. Civil servants who work from home are also receiving expenses for their heating at home.
This is madness.
So taxpayers, civil servants who don't go to the office and therefore don't do their job properly. You can't do your job properly at home, I don't care what you say. It ruins businesses, it ruins the civil service. One day we're going to wake up and stop this nonsense. More and more companies are realising it's nonsense, it's counterproductive, it's stupid. We survived for centuries, everybody going to work. Why don't we just go back to that system? A bit like gents and ladies' lavatories, really, isn't it? We've survived for centuries. This one's for men, this one's for women. Why don't we just go back to that, eh? Just a thought. Same deal for workers. Start going to the office. That notwithstanding, civil service workers stay away in their droves. You know, departments all over Whitehall, virtually empty day in, day out. And now it turns out that we are paying them expenses for their heating. A staggering £600,000 we've handed out to work from home civil servants to pay for their heating. That's, again, I mean, I fear for this nation. So many deranged decisions being made left, right and centre every single day. Just tell them, no, we're not going to pay for your heating. In fact, you can't work from home anymore. But if we must allow these people to work from home, they pay for their own heating, right? I
mean, if you just got up, you know, you went to work, paid for the sort of petrol or train that you need to go into the office with or wherever you work, and you come home, you pay your own heating bill. I mean, somewhere along the way, you're helping house a civil servant who can't quite make that. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're comfortable enough working at home, being completely unproductive, dare I say. And the fact that HMRC has handed out £610,000 to make their lives even more comfortable is outrageous. I mean, why do we have to mollycoddle staff to no end, and especially civil servants? I mean, the country's totally bloated with them. Andy Burnham's got absolutely no plan on cutting them down. In fact, he wants to build them up. He wants more civil servants everywhere. He believes they're kind of the answer to running this country. Of course he does.
Public sector. The Labour love the public sector. Massive public sector will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what these socialist half-wits who mismanage the country believe is that those of us who work in the private sector should be taxed up to the hill, up to here, so we can pay for big pay rises for people who don't even turn up to the office and work from home, and now we learn we're paying their heating bills as well. Stop the world. It's gone mad. I want to get off. I mean, meanwhile, energy bills are meant to... The forecast says that they're going to rise by £66 and it's going to be annually about 1,700 is going to be the average in this country. I mean, we've got some of the highest energy prices in the entire world, and those over 5,000 civil servants who are taking these payments for their heating, I don't think they're doing anything to solve our energy crisis. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't have it both ways. You can't be completely unproductive, doing nothing about the country, and also getting subsidised while doing that. I mean, they're woefully incompetent. We should have energy bills that are lower than any other country. We've got all the resources at our disposal, and we just don't want to use them. Yeah, let's very quickly, because it's not worth wasting too much time on, but old Zany Zach Polanski and his Gormless Green Party have called for, demanded that police be stripped of their taser guns and pepper spray. Presumably that's because Zach wants to give the crooks and the bad guys, the rapists and the murderers, a sporting chance.
Sorry, I mean, this is the same party that wants to legalise crack cocaine and heroin, and while they're at it, they don't want any sort of active police force. It seems like they just want some sort of community service leader to be shepherding drug addicts and people who stab those others on the street around them out of the public view. I mean, when you look at what these people have actually said, withdrawing tasers and pepper spray, as you said, but also they want to scrap prevent. They want to scrap, which in some ways, I guess maybe
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, actually.
But obviously they want to make sex work totally legal. They want illegal migration to be legal as well, vagrancy as well, so homelessness. How's that going to work when people can't defend themselves?
It's just a childish party with a childlike manifesto. And Zach Polanski was riding high for a while. And it's almost as if somebody gave him a little piece of paper saying, here's the blueprint about how you can completely screw everything up and go from being popular to incredibly unpopular in about 3 months. He's done it in a textbook way. He was riding high, he's riding low. The Greens are finished. They're a bunch of idiots, as we know. They're mad. Last question to you about Andy's. He is, of course, inevitably, with a dreary inevitability, the current Prime Minister is pitched up in Kiev, declaring his undying love for Zelensky. I'll give you so much money you won't believe it. I've got all these people back in Britain. They're struggling with the cost of living crisis. Don't worry, Vladimir. I'm going to tax them up to their foreheads and I'm going to give you the money. That's what he's doing now, pledging more and more money, more and more weapons from long-suffering Brits, us to fund Kiev's war effort. I'm not saying that Ukraine don't deserve help in their fight against Russia. I suppose it's not their fault. However, all these politicians in Westminster, Burnham being the latest, Starmer the same, Sunak, Johnson obsessive about it, just assuming that we're all right behind them. Yeah, give all our money to Zelensky, give everything to Ukraine because we love Ukraine so much. I don't think people do think that.
No, people don't. I mean, Ukraine, in some ways, has taken Europe and the UK for a ride. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't know when war broke out that we just forgot that Ukraine is actually one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And that's not to say that Russia is equally extremely corrupt and morally dubious. And this whole war has just been one big bloodshed full of teenagers putting their lives on the line to go and die out on the front lines, about 3 hours away from this studio where we're having this conversation. So it is all terrible. I do hate how politicians like Boris Johnson, now like Andy Burnham, will use Ukraine as a weapon to try and basically get their popularity up and muster up some sort of, I don't know, whip up some, we can do this, you know, everyone against Ukraine. That's not what it's about. That's Andy doing another handshake to give away another couple of billion, I'm sure. I'm just alleging right now. But
the British people.
We've given 25 billion
these politicians assume that they have the full backing of every person in Britain to take our tax pound and give it all to Ukraine. Now, I do understand the need to help Ukraine, but this idea that we're all four square behind being stripped back to the level of paupers in order to fund Ukraine's war against Russia, I'm not sure that the people of this country are exactly four square behind it, and I don't like being taken for granted in that respect. A last word from you, Scruffy Burnham, wearing some sort of zipped T-shirt. He is in the down-dressing Battle of the Titans with Zelensky. Now he's in Ukraine. I mean, you know, I don't want to be fuddy-duddy about this, but he's the Prime Minister of Britain. Wear a bloody suit, eh? Yeah,
I mean, you're not at war, Burnham, so why are you trying to cosplay a Prime Minister that is at war? It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I think that he's trying to... Well, Zelensky's not very popular at the moment, just by the way, just a sidebar there. He's actually going to be usurped, potentially, by his military commander, second in charge, because of, corruption charges, among other things. So I think I agree. I mean, put a suit on, for God's sake. Put a tie on and represent this country, and stop giving away money like you didn't earn it yourself, because that's exactly what he's doing. I'm really over Burnham. I mean, this is an unelected Prime Minister going and representing our country and not even doing a fantastic job of it. I mean, what we're showing right now, he has put a suit on.
Put a suit on a bit later. But,
All right,
you know, put one in when you arrive. You know, it's just ridiculous. This guy, he deludes himself that he's different. He's dressing like this, Burnham, on official state visits to say, I'm different. I'm a different kind of Prime Minister. No, you're not, mate. You know, as I said to Ian Collins, you know, he comes on in, immediately starts waffling on about net zero, claptrap, the importance of clean energy, immediately lets us know he's got no plan to stop the boats, immediately lets us know he's got no plan to cut the obscenely massive welfare bill, and so on and so forth, and of course then goes on to declare his undying love for Ukraine. Therefore, this guy is not different. He's exactly the same as the rest. Here it is, the continuity moron. Great. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to go back to the migrant crisis. It costs us £5 million a day to accommodate, to house all the illegal migrants and asylum seekers who've broken into this country illegally. It costs us £5 million a day just to house them. Turns out it costs us another £500,000 a day to ferry them around the country, looking for places to give them a free night, free place to stay. I mean, when are we going to, you know, stop being quite so astronomically insane about this? When are we going to get real? Let's stop spending this money. Let's spend it on British people. Hey, how about that? We'll talk about the new migrant crisis bill after this break. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Samara Gill stayed in the studio. We're going to discuss this latest addition to the astronomical migrant crisis bill.
This is outrageous.
You know, this comes on the back of last week. We established that the proposed new camp for 1,500 asylum seekers, young male asylum seekers, in Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire, that will cost, just for accommodation fee, just for the night, not food or anything. £750,000 every single night. And £750,000, one camp for one night. Now we're learning that altogether, this we already knew, that every single night British taxpayers shell out £5 million to house the 130,000 or so asylum seekers we've got all over the country, in hotels, in houses of multiple occupation, in army camps, disused RAF camps, etc. So that's £5 million. The new statistic reveals, Samara, that we're also spending £500,000, £500,000 every single day ferrying these illegal migrants around the country to find them somewhere where we can give them a free night to stay. So, you know, we're spending £500,000 ferrying these people around to camps that are costing us £500,000, £750,000 every single night anyway. But the transport costs alone are £500,000 a day. This is obscene. And our government, you know, Andy Burnham's over there, you know, taking a rare break from talking about buses to go to Ukraine to say, have all our money. Why doesn't he do something about this?
Well, you're right about the bus ticket and the way that he thinks that the British public are so stupid that he can distract them with a cap on a £2 fare. Meanwhile, we're spending £500,000 every day just ferrying a bunch of illegal migrants around this country. That's kind of the politics that Burnham's trying to play here. And honestly, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When you actually hear stories about the way that taxi services are being used to ferry illegal migrants who are living in hotels, children back and forth to school in black cabs. I mean, these are luxuries that only many Brits could just dream of. I mean, having a black cab take your kids to and from school is absurd, let alone it be on the back of the taxpayers' dime. So, yeah, when you break down the numbers, you had... So there was 137 million pounds that was attributed to escorts. That's
just moving the migrants around. But then there's another nearly £50 million spent on escorts who take migrants back to their country of origin on scheduled or charter flights. So you've got about best part of £190 million is spent a year transporting these people around. That works out, as I say, around about £500,000 a day, which is outrageous.
I mean, it's a gluttonous industry. It's become something where we're not just spending enormous sums dealing with illegal migration. Let's just quickly forget about the $1 billion that we sent over to France. Let's see how that's gone. We're actually talking about this sort of infrastructure that has been almost built around the illegal migrant industry. And you reported over the weekend about, you know, the fact that the hotel Migrant King is making millions upon millions of pounds a day off this. There are people stuffing their pockets with cash, and the British taxpayer is the one that's obviously funding all this. So, you know, we've got 48 million, as you said, went on overseas escorts connected to removals. Sure, but how the hell is it costing that much? I mean, we were getting upset about £3,000 being spent on a flight to Rwanda, and now I think they're doing this, a lot of it under kind of the cloak of secrecy and darkness, where they're deporting people, but it's costing a lot of money.
Well, there's two reasons. There are two reasons that it costs quite so much. One is that civil servants are notoriously easily conned by sharp business people.
Yeah.
But government contracts are very much sought after in the private sector world, because you always know you can con the government into paying a lot more for stuff than private sector people would pay. You know, I'm thinking about there's a taxi company in the Midlands that got a £20 million a year contract to cab fare to ferry one boy to school every morning.
It's absurd.
That's the sort of nonsense that goes on. So that's one reason. And the other reason is this lack of ambition. There's never any plan at all to reduce any of this. You know, to stop the boats, to at least reduce the amount we spend on accommodation, or the obscene amount we now learn we spend on transport. There's never any proposals from the government to cut this back. Just proposals to expand the whole system, because they're going to let thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands more young men cross the channel illegally, break into this country unlawfully pretty much every single day. No plans to stop it, just plans to accommodate it and let it increase. It's fantastic, isn't it?
It is fantastic if you're an illegal migrant. I mean, they're totally, I mean, they're entitled to these enticements, and that's how they feel. And, you know, I was talking to a rabid lefty actually over the weekend who basically said to me, oh, Samara, but they only get £49 a week in cash to spend in benefits. It's really not. It's a drop in the ocean compared to government budgets. Well, it's not when you look into these stories and how many different things they get subsidised. I mean, it's literally like a migrant merry-go-round, and it comes with a meter running. It's ridiculous. And unfortunately, it's not going to be able now to be shut down overnight. It's out of control. And those who complain about it still in this country get shut down for some sort of reason. I mean, when we talk about and Burnham trying to go around the country solving the average Brit's bills, why can't he tackle this first? This needs to be shut down and totally cleaned out.
Exactly. I mean, let me know what you know, folks, what you think. But Samara's right. You know, every day in every way, we should be getting more and more furious. I think a lot of people are about our government's complete lethargy about the issue that concerns British people the most. That's the migrant crisis, the exploding asylum seeker crisis. They're not doing anything at all. They're just coming up with new and interesting ways of distributing these migrants around different places, particularly these proposed massive migrant camps that are going to ruin villages all over the country. Why are there no plans to do anything about this? Why are there no plans to stop the boats, to reduce the amount we spend? It's absolutely, it's a disgrace, it's a scandal. And there he is, he's over in Ukraine saying, oh, hello, Vladimir, here's all of Britain's money, you can have our weapons as well. You can rely on my undying support. How about some undying support for the people of this country, eh? How about not increasing the foreign aid bill and giving the money to British people? We need this money. What the hell are you people doing? Why are you spending it on migrants and foreign countries? What is it you hate about the people of this country that you won't spend any of our tax money on us? You just want to give it to migrants and to foreign countries. What's the matter with you lot? Seriously. Let me know what you think about this, folks. 0344 499 1000. We're going to go to break now. When we're going to come back, we're going to discuss another eye-watering daily bill. Honestly, folks, I can assure you, I don't want to be a harbinger of doom, but we are hurtling to economic hell in a handcart. Pretty soon, the drawbridge is going to come crashing up and we will be blocked out of our future because, first of all, we've got a £3 trillion national debt that costs us £3,500 every second, not to pay it back, to service it. £3,500 a second to service our grotesque £3 trillion national debt. And furthermore, this is what we're going to talk about next, every single day, our welfare bill, our bill for, you know, paying benefit claimers lots of money, our welfare bill every day, that's you, me, taxpayers, those of us who work, funding the welfare bill. Every single day, Britain's welfare bill is, wait for it, drum roll, £1 billion, £1 billion. That's extraordinary, isn't it? £1 billion every day to give to people who aren't working. Now, some of those people, you know, they deserve welfare. I'm not against welfare. You know, some people can't work, but we know only too well there's a lot of people who are taking their welfare, taking their benefits, and they don't deserve them. You know, they're just gaming the system, gaming a gullible system that just wants to hand them money. So £1 billion a day, and Burnham's favourite economist, a guy called Jim O'Neill, a comprehensive schoolboy from Sheffield, you know, who goes along with Labour policies, he said, listen, Andy, big mate of his, Andy, forget about this wealth tax. You taxing rich people to pay for stuff. It's a drop in the ocean. It's never going to work. You want to save this country from financial oblivion, because that's where we're heading very, very fast if we're not careful. You've got to cut the welfare bill, and you've got to cut it big, and you've got to cut it big fast. That's what Jim O'Neill's saying. Will Andy Burnham listen? No, he's too busy giving money to Zelensky over in Kiev. Well, honestly, we are in a hamster wheel of madness, folks. And we got a Prime Minister who I say just isn't up to the job. We'll talk about that £1 billion a day welfare bill next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I was saying before the break, our benefits bill per day is £1 billion. £1 billion every single day. It's our annual bill for welfare, for benefits, is 350 billion, upwards of 350 billion, and rising. They think within about 3 or 4 years it's going to be way over 400 billion pounds. That's top heavy, to say the least. We're fond of saying that Great Britain is a health service with a country attached. Forget the NHS. That costs us a mere 200 billion pounds a year. Just 200 billion, really cheap. What this country really is a grotesque welfare system, a grotesquely bloated welfare system with a country attached, the long-suffering United Kingdom. Let's talk to Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marlowe. Maxwell, welcome. Now, this comes from a guy called Joe O'Neill, who apparently is Andy Burnham's favourite economist. We all have a favourite economist, don't we? Joe O'Neill is a comprehensive schoolboy from Sheffield. You know, sounds like a good guy, and it sounds like he's not buying into all this socialist claptrap, this magic money tree stuff that Burnham and his gang actually continue to believe in. Socialists always believe there's money somewhere. We can find it somewhere. Well, we're getting to the point where we're not going to find it anymore, and that's what Joe O'Neill has warned Andy Burnham. He said, look, you're going round saying, I'm going to bring in a wealth tax to pay for or to try to do something about our national debt, our enormous welfare expenditure, etc., etc. Well, that is just a drop in the ocean. He said, and unless you do something about our grotesquely massive welfare bill, this country is doomed. Now, Joe O'Neill is exactly right. That's what we've got to tackle. That's what Starmer tried a few months back and, of course, got knocked back by his left-wing Labour backbenchers. It's what Burnham must do, hopefully trading on more goodwill than Starmer got from those big backbenchers. But will he do anything about this, Andy Burnham? I wouldn't bet the farm on it, would you, Maxwell?
Well, I'm not too sure. Hi, Gavin. Well, look, Lord O'Neill's an interesting character. He used to be a Conservative minister, actually. He's a very successful one at that. The problem we have, though, with this, idea is that half of our welfare bill goes to pensioner spending. It goes on the triple lock. And the big thing that Lord O'Neill has said Andy Burnham needs to deal with is the triple lock. We think by 2030, it'll be costing an extra £15 billion a year. So getting that through would be very, very difficult. That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is we have this NEETs crisis. We know that today the employment market for graduates is at its worst since the financial crash. So getting more people into work so they can pay for these, pay their taxes, pay down the debt, whatever else, is just not looking likely at all. That's because of the government's national insurance rise increases. That's because of minimum wage going up and up and up. And that's fundamentally because AI has come in and disrupted the space. So there's loads of problems. I don't think the government have the gall to go out to their backbench and say, hey, look, we need a radical reset of our welfare state and a rethink of our institutions. So I think we are in for a really rough ride over the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. And it's all very well to target the old people. I mean, Labour love to target old people because they don't like old people, because old people don't tend to vote Labour. But saying, oh, we've got to do something about the triple lock, that'll sort out our welfare problem. Well, there's an easier way to do it than targeting poor old people in the winter of their lives. And that is to be a little bit more sensible about how we hand welfare money out, about how we pay benefits. You know, we're signing kids off at the age of about 18, for their entire life, saying you never have to work, you never have to look for work because, I've examined you and you're a bit anxious. And it looks as if you could be a bit depressed. So here's a free car from the state and here's benefits for the rest of your life. It's that sort of nonsense that we should be cutting back on, this kind of free-for-all that our welfare system has turned into. We need to make welfare one hell of a lot more difficult to get, don't we?
I completely agree. Yeah, it should be much more difficult to sign on. And I think this is what the Milburn review that's been commissioned under Starmer will see more reports from that commission come out soon. I think that's what that is looking at, to get more young people into good work. And I think that's one of the problems we have at the moment, is that we have a huge glut of immigration that have come into this country under Boris Johnson, the so-called Boris wave, which has stolen so many, nice weekend jobs, also taken away people's kind of more part-time work. So it means young people are not incentivized to get back onto the ladder. Why would you not sign on, Kevin, if there are no jobs for you to go out and work? I mean, I've got lots of young friends myself. I'm only 26 years old, but they want to be out working. They want to be contributing. They want to have the pride of work, but there are no jobs out there for them to get. It's fundamentally an economic growth problem, which this government is just completely removed from.
Exactly right. But by the way, you're wearing well for 26, Maxwell. I'm going to be 26 next year, so let me know what it's like. No, seriously, here's something to worry about with Andy Burnham, right? It's only about 2 weeks ago he was challenged about this welfare bill, 350 billion a year, tipped within 4 years to be about 420 billion. It really is unmanageable. It's unsustainable. And it was put to him, you've got to do something about this. Starmer tried, got knocked back and ended up paying out more than actually even cutting any of the bills. So he ended up with a bigger welfare bill. That was his bid to cut back. But Burnham was told, you've got to get real, you've got to do something. And his response was, I'm against crude cuts to the welfare bill. Do you know what that means, Maxwell? He's against any cuts to the welfare bill, and that's frightening. If he doesn't understand he's got to do something about this, we're in even more trouble than I thought we were.
I think so, and one of the problems we've got is that he has this kind of political idea that just because he's not of the Westminster class, which, by the way, is total nonsense. He was health secretary in the dying days of the Brown government, trying to oversee some failed health reforms. He thinks just because he was mayor, he does things differently. If you look at what happened in Manchester while he was mayor, the inequality the Manchester experience was ginormous, and it's not just because lots of people got richer, which actually they did because he was quite good about building up the middle of Manchester to become quite a developed city. But it's also he left behind so many communities and let the welfare there absolutely sprawl. So if he has that attitude for building up the UK, he's not only going to alienate most of the country because he refuses to deal with things like mass immigration and refuses to deal with things like our massive kind of behemoth of a welfare bill.
Yep.
But he's also going to alienate his own party because they're going to stand there and go, we're really worried about inequality, and yet Andy Burnham wouldn't do anything about it. He's literally not chosen a right horse in any of these battles. I think it's going to really bite him on the behind.
He hasn't chosen a right horse in any of his battles. I couldn't have put it better myself, Maxwell. Exactly right. What has this guy achieved so far? Nothing. He went to Wolverhampton bus garage once, stood in a rubbish tip last week, and is now in Ukraine. What has he achieved? He's made a load of jam tomorrow speeches that don't amount to a hill of beans. I think he likes to be popular, but he better brace himself for extreme unpopularity. It's not good enough. Maxwell, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Excellent stuff. Maxwell Marlowe there, Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute. £1 billion a day. If you're working, that's what your tax is funding. £1 billion a day for social payments, for benefits, for welfare. What do you think about that? 03444991000. Why won't our Prime Minister do anything about it? I mean, what's wrong with him? This is a crisis. He's got to tackle it. But no. He's over in Kiev telling Zelensky, oh, you can have the drippings of my nose. Here, I can get my jacket off. Do you want that? Oh, sorry, he's not wearing a jacket because he doesn't wear suits, because Andy's cool and different. Honestly, who the hell is this guy? Honestly, he's the same as the rest. He's continuity candidate, category C. That's what Andy Burnham is. Exactly the same as all the rest. But hey, look, I'm not wearing a suit, so that makes me cool and different. No, it doesn't. It makes you pathetic. It certainly doesn't make you different. Now, next up, we're going to talk about St. Gary Lineker. He's been sharing anti-Semitic posts again. What's wrong with him? Why doesn't he like Jews, old St. Gary Lineker? This time he shared a tweet that suggests Zionism, the belief that the Jewish people deserve their own country, warrant their own nation. Gary shared a tweet saying that Zionism is like Nazism. You're a Nazi if you believe that the Jews deserve their own state. Interesting. Well, I'm a Zionist. I don't consider myself to be a Nazi. I believe the Jews deserve and warrant their own country. Does that make me a Nazi? Do you believe that as well? Are you a Nazi? Well, Gary seems to think you are. What's wrong with that guy? We'll talk about this next. Stay tuned. 03444991000. Back in a mo.
Nigel Farage, I want to give credit here. I don't agree with a lot of Reform's policies, particularly on the economy. which don't add up. They would add heavily to the debt, which I think is a big danger for the country. But on this, I want to pay him a huge amount of credit. Let me tell you, I went to Calais and spoke to a lot of people, African men mainly, living in a warehouse, and I said, if you knew you were going to be instantly deported, would you come? He said, we're not going to spend 5,000 to a people smuggler to know that we're going to end up back in Africa. Of course they're not. That is that smashes the business model of the game.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I suppose it doesn't matter so much now. He is no longer the BBC's highest paid presenter. He used to earn £1,300,000 a year for talking about the offside rule on Match of the Day and covering the World Cup, things like that. Well, he doesn't do that anymore because he had to leave the BBC, was it back in last May, for sharing an anti-Semitic tweet which featured a classic Jew hate trope of a rat depicting a Jewish person. Gary said he had no idea about that trope. Well, he's done it again now. He's shared a tweet from a guy called Tony Greenstein. He's an anti-Zionist who was cleared recently in court of inviting support for the terrorist group Hamas. He tweeted, a jury of 12 men and women decided that I was not a terrorist and that terrorism is not opposition to genocide in Gaza. And I stood here as a Jewish person and I made it clear to the jury that my opposition to Zionism was because I was Jewish and that Zionism is in the tradition of the Nazis who persecuted Jews. Let's talk to the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter. This is a new interesting theory, Gideon, that if you're a Zionist, I count myself as a Zionist, I believe the Jewish people have a right to their own country. That means that I'm akin to a Nazi. That's a Nazi way of thinking, to believe that the Jewish people deserve their own country. Such a valid viewpoint, according to Gary Lineker, that he shared it to his millions of followers on social media. What do you think Gary and, by extension, this guy, Tony Greenstein, mean by Zionism is the same as Nazism? What on earth are they talking about?
I mean, it takes to a whole new level propaganda that has been popularized, in fact, by the Soviet Union. They pushed at the United Nations a motion saying that Zionism is racism. The far left and various Islamist groups have taken it even further and now said that Zionism is akin to Nazism. It's pretty gross. And if you look at the whole context here, Tony Greenstein's someone with a very mixed record in court. He actually sued us for calling him a notorious anti-Semite. And not only did the court decline to declare that it was libelous for us to call him a notorious anti-Semite, they also awarded costs against us to the extent that it actually led to his bankruptcy. So this is somebody who is a co-founder of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. He has gone up in court numerous times. This time here, he's been cleared. Just to give a bit of context, though, some of the things that he was prosecuted for, although he was cleared of support for terrorist organisation, he said things like, whatever criticisms one may make of Hamas, we should congratulate them on this well-planned and audacious attack on the Zionist enemy. That was over October 7th, the worst anti-Semitic atrocity since the Holocaust. So now we have Gary Lineker.
You mean apart from the 1,200 innocent Jewish people who were murdered, raped, burned to death it was a very good operation. We should appreciate that, right?
Yeah, I mean, he literally wrote full support for the Gaza ghetto uprising. I think that was what he tweeted on October 7th. So this is the kind of thing that Gary Lineker is clearly he's delighted with the court result that Tony Greenstein was not convicted of supporting a terrorist organization. And to focus in on Gary Lineker, as you say, I think it's absolutely disgusting that he's retweeting this. And if you look at his record, the fact that he was fired from the BBC, or rather he left early from the BBC, if he wasn't fired, he was already on his way out, but he had to leave early from the BBC over sharing a video supposedly about Zionism, which had Zionists represented by a rat emoji. He's now gone and reposted this Greenstein post. And I just wonder if there are any other public figures who would be able to equate Jews' national movement with their genocidal Nazi persecutors and be rewarded with primetime, because that is what happened. He's being given the primetime slot on ITV that was vacated by Anton Deck. He is still being protected by the TV establishment.
Netflix as well. He's got a massive show on Netflix, Gideon. And
yeah, the Netflix show as well.
What I'm thinking of, sorry to interrupt, but because I haven't got too much time left, but I'm thinking that given his history, you know, he retweeted the rat trope and then said, "I'm really sorry, I didn't realise that was a classic anti-Jew, a Jew hate trope. I'm sorry, I didn't know." And then he sees this, a tweet about Zionism, conflating Zionism and Nazism, and he retweets that, you know, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that last share. I shouldn't have done that. It was because I didn't know about the rat." He's doing this to goad you. He's doing this to goad Jewish people and to goad those of us who stand with Israel. He cannot claim ignorance and innocence here. He's doing this because he enjoys doing it.
I mean, that's the conclusion that I personally would see as well. I mean, he's playing the public for fools by pretending to be a fool himself. He keeps saying, "Oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about this. I just happened to retweet this." He's got a story here where it keeps happening. And if you're just a clumsy retweeter, then you don't always end up on the side of sharing vile filth about Zionists. And let's just remember that 80% of Jews in the UK consider themselves to be Zionists. Only 6% don't consider themselves to be Zionists. And if that is what he's putting out constantly, you can only imagine the message it sends out to Jews about the fact that someone can put that kind of message out and be rewarded with prime time.
So I think Netflix and ITV have got to think very seriously about the guy's future. I really do. Gideon, it's fantastic to have you on the show as always. Thanks for coming on. Gideon Fulter, their Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Gary's gone and done it this time, I think. Let me know what you think. 03444 999 1000. Back after the news. Much still to come. Stay with
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Should we play a voice note? I should have played this in the last hour. This is from Pete, and it's on Andy Burnham.
Yeah, so Andy Burnham turns up at the Hill Dickinson Stadium yesterday in a suit, shirt, tie, goes on international, trips, looking like Zelensky in a little zipped polo shirt. Don't get that, mate. You see President Trump, you see power, you see our prime ministers, and you just see they're just poor, mate, aren't they? And he's happy to fund the war. He's happy to throw money at Ukraine because the Russians are invading them, mate. We're being invaded here, mate, and they're not doing anything. They're just they're putting them up in hotels and HMOs and all that.
Exactly right. I didn't realise that Burnham, I know he went to Everton the weekend. They had a good game, didn't they? Was it Crystal Palace? Was it 2-0? I didn't realise he went in a suit. So he wears a suit and tie to go and watch Everton, but represents Britain on the national stage, international stage, in Kiev, in Ukraine, looking like a football fan, wearing a T-shirt and a pair of jeans. I mean, what's wrong with that guy? Right, in a little while, by the way, I'll be joined by our former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. We need to talk about Hampshire Police. Apparently, they refused to give up on the non-issue of whether or not poor Henry Novak was a racist. So that lying murderer, that scumbag Vikram Digwar, who accused Henry of calling him racist names, total lie. So he's now doing life for that murder. But it transpires now from the papers surrounding the case that the police then went off and spent a lot of time trawling through every single social media post that poor Henry had ever posted since he was 12 years old, going back 6 years. So they're looking at a kid's posts of 12 years old to see whether or not it's racist. You know why they're doing that? So they can turn around and say, you see, we were right, he was a racist. Well, he wasn't. And it's disgusting that you wasted taxpayers' money trying to prove that a decent young man, the victim of a vile murder, was a racist. That's a disgrace. We'll talk about that in a little while. But for the next 20 minutes or so, let's go through some of the big stories of the day with broadcaster, historian and senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Rafe Heidel-Manku. Welcome, Rafe.
Great to see you, Kevin.
Always a pleasure. Let's get your take first on this one. Coppers in Suffolk, Norfolk and Leicestershire, if they're gender fluid police officers, are being offered with 2 warrant cards, 2 ID cards, 1 male, 1 female, depending on what gender, what sex they feel like identifying as at the beginning of the day. Will I be a male? Will I be a female? I think I'll be a female today. I'll pick up my female warrant card. I mean, I don't want the police forces of this country to be wasting our money on this nonsense. If coppers think they're gender fluid, they're mixed up about whether or not they're a bloke or a woman, you know, leave it for your private life. Don't charge taxpayers to indulge in your little private turmoil. What a joke.
Well, look, I know that we're supposed to be in silly season, but this really is the silliest of all stories. I mean, it takes the biscuit. I just remember there was an old Tommy Cooper sketch where he's half man, half woman, and he's halfway to the camera as a woman and then as a man, and that's all I had in my mind when I was thinking about this. I mean, look, the trans argument is a genuine argument you can have. As if somebody has gender dysphoria, they believe that they're born into the wrong body. I can understand that sort of an argument and the positions there. But this whole thing of when you wake up, am I Arthur or Martha today? Or, you know, it's just absolute...
Am I PC Arthur or WPC Martha? I mean, honestly, it is crazy. I mean, as I say, I'm not disparaging people's private problems, you know, whether or, you know, if they've got just dysmorphia and all that, fine. But don't take it to work and don't get taxpayers to fund this nonsense. It's just crazy. As I said earlier in the show, Rafe, on the back of this, I officially declare policing in Britain to have gone stark, staring mad. Whatever happened to just catching the bad guys, making the people of this country safe? It's absolute nonsense. Let me get your take internationally now, because our Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has finally emerged from the bus garages that he prefers to inhabit. He was in Wolverhampton last week. Good bus garage, that one. Previously in Manchester bus garage. Well, he's left the wonderful world of bus garages, and he's got on a plane, and he's done what all British Prime Ministers have to do. They're contracted to do this, as you know, Rafe. They have to fly to Kiev and declare their undying love for Ukraine, and then they have to tell Zelensky, the president, that they will continue to give him untold billions of pounds and untold quantities of weapons to continue his war in the east against Russia. Andy Burnham likes to say he's different. He's different from the rest. Well, he's not really, is he? He's doing the same as they all do. First job, get to Ukraine, tell Zelensky, don't worry, I'll carry on giving you as much of British taxpayers' money as I possibly can. Same old, same old.
Yes, well, as one of your callers said, it's great to see him so concerned about the border of a country. It's just a shame it's not our own borders.
Exactly.
He's so concerned about. Now, look, Putin is my enemy number one. I think Russia is the most evil force within Europe, and I'm full square behind Ukraine. But the priority, of course, must always be defending your own homeland and your own territory. And I have no objection, actually, to what we're doing in Ukraine. I just wish we had the same focus of mind and the same ambition to defend our own borders with the same sort of vigor and the same sort of investment. In fact, you know, I'm thinking about going to Ukraine next month, actually, to do some visiting around there. I actually was one of those people who thought Zelensky should have sued for peace much earlier, perhaps given up the Donbass and faced reality. I've been proved wrong, because now we see Russia on the back foot. And so I'm quite happy to admit that I was wrong in terms of thinking that Ukraine should go to the negotiation tables. So I'm not that much opposed to what's happening in Ukraine. I just want to see an equally strong defence of the British interest and of the British people at home.
Here's what I'm not. I understand that, Rafe. I totally get it. You know, I understand the geopolitical imperatives here. You know, we have to stop Russia. We can't just let him invade any country he feels like, because if you just let him do that, he'll find another country to invade and then another. So yes, I do understand what's going on here. What annoys me, what infuriates me, is the body politic in this country. You know, all these MPs, cabinet secretaries, shadow cabinet secretaries, all standing on TV giving interviews with their little Ukraine badges. And they don't feel the need in any way to explain to the British people why they have to keep taking so much of our tax money to fund Ukraine's war against Russia. It is their assumption that we support them, without them ever going to any trouble at all to try to explain to us why they're doing the right thing. They're entitled in this endeavour, and it really annoys me.
Yes, no, well, yeah, I agree. It's a fair point. As I say, my key point is the first priority of any government must be the defence of your own people and your own territory. And it just seems to me extremely bizarre, if not perverse, that we're so concerned about defending Ukraine's right to its borders and the right of its people to live in peace and freedom, when we see just the reverse happening in our own country.
Absolutely. Do you think it was a good idea of Andy Burnham to make such a sort of public display of handing to Zelensky technological blueprints for how to make long-range missiles, the Storm Shadow missile technology? So we made a big song and dance of that. This is very serious missile technology with which Ukraine can inflict serious damage on Russia. And Putin's response has been, right, Thank you very much, Britain. You are now within our sights. Couldn't we have just handed that useful technological information to Zelensky quietly and not made ourselves a target for Russia?
Well, there's a lot of geopolitics going on here, as well as, of course, as personal poll ratings, and he's preaching to his own side here. It's his first action as prime minister. He wants to make a statement that clearly shows where his loyalties lie. Not that he needed to do that, of course, but it's also, I suppose, a way to try to coerce or force or hint to President Trump that he needs to supply more Patriot missiles, which are the missiles that are used to stop Russian missiles and drones from entering Ukrainian airspace. So it's all part of that. But as I say, I'm quite in favor of us flexing muscle against Russia. We're already Russia's #1 enemy. If you look in the Russian intelligence service, Britain is enemy #1. So I don't think much is going to change by the announcement of this new policy.
Rafe, I'm glad I've got you because this is breaking news. I know it's going to excite you. We're going to play some footage of this. Unfortunately, we haven't got sound, but let me read to you what's just happened in Ukraine. And it just makes me feel, I don't know what the hell is going on here. OK, right, ready? Andy Burnham was handed a guitar by a Ukrainian soldier and then played a Smiths song as he continued his visit to Kiev. He said music can help lift spirits on the front line and was serenaded by soldiers from the Cultural Forces group singing Oasis songs. So there's Andy. He's got a guitar. He's in Ukraine. He's singing Smith's songs to Ukrainian soldiers fighting that war against Russia. He says music can lift spirits. Now, actually, I'm a big fan of the Smiths, but I'll tell you one thing the Smiths never did. Yes. That was lift spirits. They were music to commit suicide by. They really were. Great music, but it was not spirit lifting. But by God, look at him. He's in Ukraine making a state visit. He's playing a guitar, singing Smith's songs. This is the second time I've said this show, Rafe. Stop the world. It's gone mad. I want to get off. Come on.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the poor people of Ukraine are depressed enough without hearing the Smiths from Andy Burnham. But yeah, what a joke. I mean, what a farce. I don't know whether he's been taking a book out of the Justin Trudeau School of Politics, but it's that sort of school level, high school level tactics, which I don't know who he thinks he's going to look towards him as being a great statesman.
Well, I wouldn't say I was in the most happy of moods as this show began. You know, it's been a tough weekend with one thing and another. The news cycle continues to depress, but I'm looking at this footage of Andy Burnham, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. That's a Smiths lyric, but seriously, unbelievable. I can't, you know, as my producer just said, Rafe, give this guy a pint, and the whole picture would be complete. It's like he's on a stag do or something. It's not. It's just that there's not this. This lacks gravitas, don't you think?
Well, at least we know he's got a second career as a busker if all goes tits up as prime minister. But yeah, no, look, the thing is, we need an era of leadership and statesmen. We're in one of the most desperate times, not only for Britain, but for the West generally. And all we seem to have are jokers who simply aren't up to the task and debase the office that they inhabit.
Yeah, and while I've got you on that, I mean, I don't want to seem like an old fuddy-duddy, and I know that you won't either, Rafe, but shouldn't the Prime Minister, when he represents this country on the international stage, upon arriving in a foreign country, an ally, an esteemed ally country, shouldn't he be wearing a suit?
Yes, well, I'm rather embarrassed not to be wearing my bow tie today. You know, I feel
as if I'm dress down Monday for you, yeah.
Yes, so I feel as if, I feel that there's a duty that we have to your audience to dress for the occasion. If you are a prime minister, you are representing the nation. This isn't about your own personal attitude. This is about showing respect to the person with whom you're meeting. And if you're meeting another head of state on Ukraine's Independence Day, they were marking their 35th anniversary. He was greeted at the train station, for heaven's sake, by officials wearing Ukrainian ceremonial costume, and he came out looking as if he was on the back pages of a Next catalogue. I mean, come on. There you go. I mean, look.
Wear a suit. Wear a suit. How? I mean, he arrived like this, and then later on, in fairness, when he went to the war memorial graves and everything, he put a suit on. But I just think that a prime minister should wear a suit throughout, and I don't think that's you and me being old-fashioned and fuddy-duddy. I mean, is it too much to ask that when representing this great country on the international stage, our prime minister should dress smartly? Don't you think he should? I mean, it's pretty basic, isn't it?
I mean, part of me thinks that he's secretly quite envious of Zelensky. He thinks perhaps Zelensky has to be pulled back to, because it looks like he's trying to copy his military dress in the most diplomatic way possible, if you ask me.
Yeah. I made this point earlier, Rafe. Let me get your take on it. This guy, Burnham, he's come in. He's been in power now as Prime Minister for just over a month. He's achieved absolutely nothing except set up a silly office in Manchester, the reason for which none of us can actually work out. Apart from that, he's made a few speeches, but he's achieved absolutely nothing. But he's tried to tell us, this is it. For 50 years to put right, this is going to be the biggest change ever seen in this country. I'm different. I'm the change candidate. So what's he actually done since he came in? He has droned on about net zero, the importance of clean energy. Tick. He has revealed he's got no plans to solve the small boats crisis, no plans to stop the boats. Tick. He has revealed he's got no plans to do anything about our grotesque bankruptcy-causing welfare bill of £350 billion a year. No plans to do anything about that. Tick. And now he has declared undying love for Ukraine. Tick. He's the same as all the rest. How dare he say he's any different? That is what... I've just been through a list that every Prime Minister for about the last 20 years has gone through that exact process, those exact tick sections, exactly the same. He's no different from the damn rest, just a front man for the same old system, right?
Yeah, it's the Uniparty leftovers reheated for the 14th time. And, you know, we found them as unappetizing now as we ever did. But the real thing, as you said, is he hasn't done anything, but he also hasn't been tested. He's not been in front of a serious journalist once. He's not had to defend any of his policies or lack of policies. The only policies he's put out have been very, very mediocre, minor issues that he's been dealing with to try to get media attention. But crucially, we haven't even had him at Prime Minister's questions yet. And so we've now had a Prime Minister in office for a fair amount of time, and not once has he actually been able to face the public and defend himself. He's chosen always safe outlets to give interviews to and so forth. I think all those who voted for him will be in for a very rude awakening when they realise that the person they elected, somebody who was twice failed to become leader of the party before, is a very different person as Prime Minister to as a mayor. It's very easy to be mayor of Manchester. To be Prime Minister and face the hard questions you do is a very different thing entirely.
Last question, Rafe. Why do you think it is that all these scions of socialism, these promoters of social equality, people like Emily Thornberry, Lord David Blunkett, why are they all saying that we, the people, should, through our taxes, fund Harry and Meghan's £5 million a year annual security bill? Why are socialists telling us, the people, that we should fund these privileged aristocrats' security bill? What's going on there? Is it because Harry and Meghan are woke lefties like them? They see them as kindred spirits. I can't think of another reason, can you?
Yeah, it's such a bizarre thing to see people who would naturally or instinctively be opposed to privilege and royalty and all the rest of it, although, of course, Emily Thornberry is Lady Nugent in real life. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. I think they are part of the Be Kind Brigade. They are sort of rarefied creatures for the left who see in them all the virtues. Where we see vice, they see virtues. But also, I think it's a simple issue of this Be Kind Brigade, or what happens if somebody tries to attack Harry and Meghan. How would we feel about that? I think that's behind a lot of it too. But they're all champagne socialists. Each and every one of them says one thing, but actually does something else in their private life. I always remember I knew Malcolm Muggeridge's famous British writer and television presenter. I knew his daughter, and she told me about Malcolm Muggeridge's socialist aunt, who every May the 1st, every Labour Day, would send her butler onto the roof to raise the red flag. That's all you need to know about that set.
That's exactly what it is. As I say, no one is denying that this couple, awful though they are, need security. They do. They're high profile. They need security. I'm not saying they don't. What I'm saying is British taxpayers, no way Jose in a month of Sunday should ever pay for their security. That's outrageous. We must not do that. Let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to Rafe Heidelmanku. Great stuff from our friend Rafe there, historian and fellow at the New Culture Forum. Next up, we're going to talk to Met Police Detective Mike Neville about this outrageous business of Hampshire Police. They just wouldn't let it drop. They carried on trying to prove that Henry Novak, the victim of that vile murder, was indeed a racist. He was not a racist. He was never a racist. I understand he had his girlfriend was a woman of colour. This guy was no way a racist. He's nothing racist about him. And yet the police were determined to prove that he was. Why? It's an outrage, absolute outrage. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Nigel Farage, I want to give credit here. I don't agree with a lot of Reform's policies, particularly on the economy, which don't add up. They would add heavily to the debt, which I think is a big danger for the country. But on this, I want to pay him a huge amount of credit. Let me tell you, I went to Calais and spoke to a lot of people, African men mainly, living in a warehouse. And I said, if you knew you were going to be instantly deported, would you come? They said, we're not going to spend 5,000 to a people smuggler to know that we're going to end up back in Africa. Of course they're not. That is that smashes the business model of the game.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. If you're watching on the telly, apologies. I'm going to impose that dreadful footage of Andy Burnham playing the guitar, singing Smith songs with Ukrainian soldiers. There he is on his state visit singing Smith songs with Ukrainian soldiers. Now, luckily, we haven't got the audio for this. Apparently it's so bad you can barely hear it, which is probably just as well. But what song do you think Andy Burnham should be playing to those unsuspecting Ukrainian soldiers? Well, there he is, strumming his guitar. Heaven knows I'm miserable now. That was my offering. But what do you think? What song? I guess the Smith song ideally, but maybe you can think of other songs that he should be singing to that Ukrainian soldier. Let me know what you think. Let's move on. By the way, you know the number, 0344 499 1000. Give us a call about it if you like. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note, or you can just send us a text, 0344 499 1000, 87222, and put talk at the beginning of your message. Right, let's go over to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
Right, we all remember only too painfully the horrible saga of the tragic death of poor Henry Novak, a Southampton University student, 18, 19 years old, with his whole life ahead of him. Nice lad from Essex. He gets stabbed to death by a scumbag called Vikram Digwar, a Sikh, who, after stabbing him to death, tried to concoct some kind of race victim story, saying that guy, attacked me with racial hatred, and therefore I responded, blah, blah, blah. Complete and utter pack of lies. Evil, self-serving lies aimed at destroying. He'd taken that kid's life, now he was trying to destroy his reputation. To hell with Vikram Digwar. Now, this, of course, his story soon became well known. Absolute pack of complete falsity. There was nothing racist about Henry Novak at all. Didn't have a racist bone in his body, just a nice kid going to university, enjoying himself. Hampshire police, we now learn from documents surrounding this case that have been released, went on to spend an inordinate amount of time trawling through every social media post that Henry Novak had ever made, going back 6 years, to when he was 12 years old, when he was a child, to see if there was anything in his background that would indicate that he was indeed a racist. I mean, obviously the search came up short. They didn't find anything. But you know what I think a lot of people will be thinking? It's certainly what I'm thinking. That Hampshire police, the coppers involved in this case, whether they know it or not, they've been brainwashed into being anti-white racists. In any given situation, cops like this, these woke cops, they think the white guy is wrong and the person of colour is right. Now, they carried on investigating Vikram Digwar's disgusting claims about Henry Novak for two reasons. One, they're brainwashed and they kind of believe that the white guy probably is racist, which he wasn't. And two, they're trying to save their own backsides, because if they do find anything racist in the background, they can go, you see, it wasn't so bad that we believed Vikram Digwar unquestioningly, because Henry Novak was a racist. You see, we found this thing he posted when he was 13 years old. Well, they didn't find anything like that, but the fact they probed this poor kid's background to try and prove that a mother and father's murdered child was a racist, to save their own arses, is a disgrace.
Yeah, it's the amount of time, Kevin. If you look at when to interrogate a phone or computers takes an enormous amount of time, and somebody's going to have to have justified that. Some senior investigator is going to have put in a policy log. This is what we're going to do. If it is true that they've gone back 6 years, then somebody has had to justify that, because that's weeks and weeks of work. And what strikes me here, again, I see that the Independent Office for Police Conduct is investigating two junior constables, the two who turned up at the scene, who were just, in essence, they have some defence in the sense that they were told on the radio, oh, this is a racist attack or whatever. The people to blame here are the senior officers who set the agenda, who set all this training, who set this woke policy. It's no good just offering up 2 sacrificial lambs who are 2 police constables who turned up at the scene. The whole the whole way that the police deal with these matters, that they're convinced that racism exists everywhere, this is something that's got to be whittled out. As I said to you before, as after the Second World War, we had the denazification program in Germany. We need a de-wokeification of Britain's police forces to try and stop this ever happening again.
Yeah, because don't forget that after poor Henry was stabbed to death by this knife maniac, this scumbag, Vikram Digwa, Henry, having been stabbed, was forced to the ground, was handcuffed. He said, I've been stabbed. I think I might be dying. I can't breathe. Coppers, oh yeah, pull the other one. You know, it's got bells on. And then they finally realised after about 8 minutes that he has been stabbed. And of course, he went on to die from this wound. So while they're treating Henry Novak, the victim, as if he's some kind of racist criminal, head down, handcuffs, saying I can't breathe, Digwa is being treated like the second coming, given cups of tea, taken to the police station, treated very, very well and respectfully. This is because those coppers, they don't even know it, but they've been brainwashed into believing that the man of colour, the person of colour, is always right and the white guy is always wrong. Anti-white police racism.
So what you've got to ask yourself here is, straight away you can see the treatment that Henry Novak was handcuffed. Even when Digwa was arrested for murder, one of the most serious crimes, if not the most serious crime, he wasn't handcuffed. Now, why was that? Because you handcuff people because you think they might be violent or you think they might escape. Well, Henry Novak was lying on the ground, injured, so he was doing none of those things. Digwa, on the other hand, if you arrest somebody for murder, it's a good reason people might run away. So why wasn't he handcuffed? The other question to ask, of course, is why Digwa's brother hasn't been charged with either aiding and abetting, assisting an offender, or perverting the course of justice, because he's the one who basically came up with this. Oh, he knocked off your turban, he said all these racist things. He's the one who schooled Digwa in the defence that he put forward. So why hasn't this, we've seen the mother prosecuted, we've seen the father prosecuted, I think, for a few knives like the brother, but the brother's involvement in this case is very, very serious, and therefore he should be tried at the Crown Court for those accusations.
Exactly right. And meanwhile, last question about this family, this horrible family, to be honest with you. The mother ran away and hid the murder weapon, so she's doing a stretch now. And only weeks into their sentences, Vikram Digwa and his mother have been allowed regular Zoom calls to each other to chat away. Why are they being given that privilege? He's a murderer. She assisted in his murder. It's a disgrace. What is going on?
It is a disgrace. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to ask you this as well while you're on. We've been covering this story, but I'd be interested in your take on it. I suspect this sort of thing didn't happen during your day when you were a copper, Mike. The officers in Norfolk, Suffolk and Leicestershire, who believe they're gender fluid coppers, are being issued with 2 warrant cards, 2 police identification cards, 1 male, 1 female, so that when they wake up in the morning, depending on which gender, which sex they feel like identifying with that day, they'll have the right warrant card. They can pick up their woman's one because they fancy being a woman on a Tuesday, but if they want to go back to being a guy on a Wednesday, they can pick up their guy's warrant card. Brilliant system. That proves that the police have really got their act together. It doesn't prove that the police are entirely woke maniacs these days at all, does it?
Well, it's utterly crazy, and I exposed this in the Met. This was happening in the Met at least 5 years ago. And what it strikes me as, Kevin, is selfish. You know, if you're at home and you want to dress up in women's clothing or men's clothing, whatever you want to do it at home. But how do you explain to a child victim of crime or an elderly person who's possibly got dementia who's a victim of crime? Oh, I was, PC Sally yesterday, and I'm PC Billy today. It just strikes me as a very selfish society where it's all about me and not the public that you serve. And on an amusing side, though, Kevin, I actually my then wife was a WPC at Scotland Yard. I picked up her warrant card by mistake, and I managed to get through the security twice at Scotland Yard, showing the wrong warrant card. So maybe I'm part of the problem.
Yeah, well, obviously you're a pioneer in this new way of thinking. It's crazy, and basically, in the end, this costs taxpayers money. I don't want my taxpayers going towards that nonsense. Mike, fantastic to have you on the show as always. Good stuff. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective there. Let me know what you think about what the Digwell case is disgusting. They'll go 6 years. They're looking at Henry Novak's social media posts when he was 12 years old to see if they can prove he's a racist. Do me a favour. 03444991000. By the way, we asked Hampshire Police for a response to that story. We have not had one. They have not called us back, given us no response. Right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Get the latest on Harry and Meghan. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. What a roller coaster when it comes to Harry and Meghan news. This is exactly why Prince William and the Princess of Wales want nothing to do with this.
Absolutely right. Now, there's a few things I need to ask you, but the first thing I think we need to dispense with, there's no way, look, whether or not Meghan Markle has been in talks or has landed some kind of a role in the third series of a so-so TV drama called The Gentleman, whether or not that's true is not the point. There's no way this entire family would be coming back, upping stumps, leaving their American dream to come back to live in the middle of Britain just so she can take part in a so-so TV drama that won't pay her all that much money. So that may be a sideshow, but that's been put forward as the reason. That cannot be the reason.
I mean, this is classic Harry and Meghan, where they try to create a diversion because they don't want us discussing what we've been discussing, you know, at great length, what's really going on. And ultimately, it's that the American dream failed. It's that, you know, the R12 Foundation failed. The Spotify contract failed. The Netflix relationship has failed. Although some might argue that she's in talks to do the Guy Ritchie show, they still pulled they still terminated their relationship with As Ever which I think most would consider a fail. So Confessions of a Female Founder failed. They hate that we're talking about how they have failed, because who wants to, start a new world in a new place? Who wants to start this new, fresh chapter with everyone reminding you of their failures? They want to look in demand, obviously, which is, I agree with that consensus that this story ultimately was leaked to make Meghan look.
To give the impression that she was wanted by Guy Ritchie, that they were desperate to get her in this show. So by releasing the info, it looks as if it might happen. But we're hearing it probably won't. But either way, what this role would pay Kinsey would be, some people have said £1 million. She'll be lucky. But even if it was £1 million, that's a drop in the ocean for their financial troubles. I suspect that what it would pay would be about £500,000, £750,000, something like that, which doesn't pay the bus fare for the Sussexes, does it? So, it's an interesting side issue story, but the gentleman issue is not at the heart of whatever the hell is going on, is it?
I mean, no, and I'm worried that they're, again, distracting us from way bigger things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Harry quietly quitting African Parks Charity after people like you and I have been demanding that he quit African Parks Charity for years, and them trying to do this under the radar throughout this hurricane that is Meghan Markle's acting comeback and their move. I'm really fearful that he's trying to reposition himself as a working member of the royal family. Why else would he give up African Parks Charity? He's been so stubborn about it over the last few years. So again, I think that all of these, and I talked to the Hollywood Reporter a few hours ago about this, and they say they're still like, we're trying to figure it out. Was this ever truly on the table, or was this all just a PR stunt to distract from something or attract something? That's classic Harry and Meghan, untrustworthy. If King Charles, if you're watching, untrustworthy, manipulative, and unpredictable. That's not what we want in working members of the royal family.
And I don't think that the king is, well, maybe he is across this, but he needs to be if he's not. The mood of the British people is extremely febrile, extremely upset we are at the idea that's being increasingly proposed is if they're living in the country, Harry, Meghan and the two kids, then we, the British taxpayers, do indeed have a duty to fund their £5 million a year security bill. No one is saying that this family don't need security. They do, but they're not working royals. In fact, they ran away from their duty to this country to pursue their own fortune. That's a story that went badly wrong, clearly, but that's a different issue. They ran away. They didn't want to do royal duties. Now they're coming back. The king won't let them do royal duties, quite rightly, because they want to do royal duties and then go off elsewhere and make money out of their royal connection. That's not acceptable. The deal is, the question is who's going to pay for their security? £5 million a year. They need it. But the point is, Kins, you're okay because you're not a British taxpayer, but we are. And we furiously refuse to fund this privileged pair's security bill. It's outrageous that we should even be asked to do so.
Well, I think it's outrageous that you would be asked to do so when Harry and Meghan won't commit to the United Kingdom. But even if they did verbally commit to the United Kingdom, their words have no weight. Go back and look at the interview Prince Harry gave to the New York Times when he did that summit. And he said that he told them, I'm staying in the United States. My children and I can do things here in the United States that we can't do in the UK. Like what? Smoke a bowl? Like what,
That's true.
And then now this guy's heading back to the United Kingdom, and I'm wondering what he's not going to be able, what are you not going to be able to do with your kids anymore now that you're heading back to the UK? So they're schizophrenic, in my opinion. They're schizophrenic about where they're going to live. They tell us that Meghan's giving up her life to move to the United Kingdom, giving up her career to move to the UK.
What
and
career?
Then they tell us that they're moving to Canada. Then they'd say from Canada, they're moving to the United States. We are seeing such a strong effort by Harry and Meghan in Australia to change public perception. They've got some friends in the media business that they are leaking to, like a faucet in Australia. So I believe Australia is a backup plan. So why should you be expected to pay for their security when it's a temporary stop, in my opinion? And I could understand if they were making it their home, but if they're not going to make it their home and they're briefly using you as another tarmac for the Harry and Meghan experience, the worldwide privacy tour, then you shouldn't be responsible for that. It's unfair.
This is what I think, Kinsey. I totally agree with you. That's what we, the British people, feel. That, yeah, sure they need security. Don't you dare charge us for it. Why should it be our bill? This pair do nothing for the royals. They do not do anything for this country. And as such, we should not have to pay for them. They're not working royals. They're private citizens. If Tom Cruise comes over here, or Brad Pitt or Nicole Kidman, they need security. They wouldn't turn around to us, would they, and say, right, well, you British taxpayers, you can pay for my security. Of course they wouldn't. This doesn't make logical sense, nor does it make logical sense for us to pay Harry and Meghan the gruesome twosome security bill. Absolutely outrageous suggestion. This is what I think, Kinsey. Final point from me. Get your take on it. I think it's pretty straightforward what's going on here. People saying, oh, it's because they're coming back to get closer to the royal family, then they can cash in on that closer connection. Yeah, there's something in that. I reckon it's a little less complicated than that. I think Harry is coming back and he's going to go straight to his dad and say, Dad, you got to bail me out. I need 10 million quid and I need it fast. I think he's just going to the king with his big begging bowl because he needs money.
Well, I think that there is a reason why they're keeping Montecito, and I think that it's so Meghan has a place to escape to when things don't work out for her. And she'll tell us that As Ever is booming, she's selling out because she only uploaded 3 jars of jam, and she'll say she has to go back to the United States for months at a time to navigate her, because she's a girl boss. And the reality is she is just miserable in the United Kingdom, and she probably will resent Harry for it.
Yeah, and people say, well, why don't they, that Montecito mansion's worth nearly $16 million. Why don't they sell it? And then all their money problems would be solved. Yeah, the trouble is they're mortgaged up to the hilt. As I understand, if they sold Montecito, they make a profit of about $20. So that's why they're not selling it, because it won't make them any money. So I suspect that they have hit financial crisis point, and it's begging bowl time. Hey, Dad, can you help me out? I think it's as simple as that. But interesting times, Kinsey. We will watch it like hawks, and you'll be back on my show very soon. I think I'm doing your podcast tomorrow. So that is the brilliant Kinsey Schofield with the latest from Planet Harry and Meghan. They'll be here in a few days, folks. You have been warned. Next up, we're going to talk to Sean Custis, Director of Sport at the Sun newspaper, about all the big Premier League games over the weekend. Some great stuff yesterday, and of course the big one tonight, Fulham-Chelsea. I'll be there. Pray for me. Sean Custis next. Stay tuned.
Meghan came in, and it seems to me, maybe I'm being unfair, but it seems to me that she... Look, it's never been what British monarchs and British royals have done. They're there to serve the country. She clearly wasn't interested in doing that. I was delighted when they left and went to America. I was disappointed that they've chosen to come back. However, I hope that on a human level there can be some...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Hell of a weekend of Premiership football, the opening weekend of the season. Sean Custis is in the studio. We talked about this yesterday, but at that point, Sean, Newcastle, your team had not played Liverpool. I watched that game yesterday afternoon, a 2-2 thriller, one hell of a game. Both teams, I think, if they carry on playing like that, can look forward to decent seasons.
Definitely, and befitting of a tribute to Kevin Keegan, of course.
Really,
who both sides honoured, famous player for both of them. And I thought both sets of fans were fantastic, and it was a wonderful tribute. And yes, as you say, great game. Spoilt at the end by a dodgy penalty, but hey, look, it's one of those. It's a soft penalty, but you're never going to overturn it, are you? And it was gutting for Lewis Hall, really, who'd had a fantastic
great game.
But a lot of the new signings for Newcastle performed really, really well. And Alexander Isak, former Newcastle, didn't perform particularly well, and he still looks a bit of a waste of space at 125 million. Also, why didn't he take the penalty? I was, from a professional point of view, I wanted him to take the penalty. Whether he scored or whether he missed, it was going to be a great story, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Professionally. And why didn't he say, right, I'm going to take this ball, I'm going to smash this penalty in the net, because you've been giving me stick ever since I left.
I think I know why he probably didn't, in case he missed.
Well, indeed, but it's the sort of thing that can relaunch your career, isn't it? You stick that penalty away,
absolutely.
And you're growing in confidence. But yeah, as you say, both teams did pretty well. There's room for optimism for both, I would say. More than we thought at Newcastle, certainly.
Spurs got thumped 3-0 by Brentford. Man City, they managed to...
Yeah, Man City, good comeback, wasn't it, against Bournemouth, even though they didn't play that well.
What did you make of Man City?
OK, but, you know, it was a late show. They were kind of making a point with Mark Gahey in midfield that he still needs another midfield player, even though he's getting rid of Nico Gonzalez, who's going off to Newcastle. And Gahey missed a good chance, and then, of course, he scored as well. And Guardiola thought he was offside. VAR came to his rescue, and they get a winner, and it was good. Haaland, interestingly, barely had a kick, but he's cut all his hair off. You know what happened to Samson? You know what happened to Samson when he loses his hair? You know, he's lost his potency.
Yeah. Well, is there any word on the haircut? That was a bit shocking.
No, he was doing it for him. He felt it was time. He did a video about it. His girlfriend's laughing when he's done it. And he's got this buzz cut now.
Why I had a haircut by Erling Haaland.
That's 2 games now where he hasn't looked very effective. That's the Arsenal and the Community Shield, and this one now. So a little concern there, certainly. The other news, of course, was Villa getting thumped by Brighton. They were 4-0 down.
But Ollie Watkins refused to play. What's going on there exactly?
Certainly, Unai Emery hinted that Ollie Watkins didn't come to the game, and there is some suggestions that he wasn't at training during the week last week, and that he's angling basically for a move to Saudi. Emery was pretty guarded on what exactly had happened, but he was going, ask the player, ask his agent. And we don't... Yeah, but this is strange, isn't it? Because we don't see Ollie Watkins as that sort of player, not somebody who would adopt that stance. He's always been seen as one of the good guys.
Solid professional,
solid professional, gives his all, good goal scorer, bright lad. Excuse me. And here we have him seemingly on the verge of a strike to get a move to a league which we don't rate very highly, but you get paid a lot of money.
Exactly right, yeah. And
excuse me.
What first attracted you to your £1 million a game contract?
But it's very unsettling for Villa at the moment because they've lost the likes of Tielemans as well. You lose Watkins too. They've got young Maggio, who was unbelievable, 17-year-old in the Super Cup, but he was injured. And it's got to be worrying times for Villa because they were building towards something.
Yeah.
And now you feel... And Newcastle had suffered from this as well. You feel you can't, because of all the rules and financial regulations, they're the sort of teams that get punished while the big 6 seem to be able to go on and spend money like there's no tomorrow. And I don't really understand why that should be, but it is.
It certainly is. And tonight, one team that spend a lot of money on the transfer market, Chelsea.
Against another team who've got very rich supporters, Kev. And I'm sure they've got your 5-course meal lined up, waiting for you as you get there. Have you ordered the caviar and the champagne?
It's a pie and a pint in the terraces.
Pie and a pint.
For
Nobody
me.
at Fulham has a pie and a pint.
That's true. No, we do have a wine. Remember, I think I told you before when old Roy Keane, he said, this is the game at Old Trafford, it's gone to the dogs, it's over. They've started selling wine at Old Trafford. And we at Fulham said, well, we've got a wine list.
I mean, we do josh about Fulham a little bit, but I feel it's a fairly critical season for you, because I would put you among the relegated department.
Well, put it this way. As I say, I'm absolutely convinced 100% we're going to have a fantastic season. Am I going to put any money on that? No, I am not. Actually, along with a few other teams, so this happens to a lot of teams, we're an unknown quantity. We brought in all these new players.
Change of manager as well from Marco Silva's time to Arbeloa. I mean, how do you feel about that? Are you indifferent?
Well, we didn't want to lose old Silva, of course we didn't. But Arbeloa, I mean, we could do worse, I think, and he's brought a couple of good Real Madrid players with him. So who knows? We're in a sort of a holding pattern. We don't quite know what's going to happen. It could be hell. It could be good. Who knows?
Indeed. You'll be
Chelsea,
looking forward to it.
Chelsea, though?
Chelsea, I think Chelsea will do all right, actually. I think Xabi Alonso is a good manager. I think he proved it at Bayer Leverkusen when they won the league with a team that's not so fashionable as like Bayern Munich. He won the title. Difficult time at Real Madrid because he was dealing with a lot of egos, a lot of characters who just wouldn't fall into line. So I think we can let that go, what happened there. And I think at Chelsea, where you do have a lot of characters and egos, they haven't proved themselves quite the way some of those Real Madrid players have, and I think he'll find it easier to keep those ones in line. And he's got a lot of players to pick from, of course.
Yeah, of course he has. About 10,000 last time I looked. Well, good luck, Chelsea. Said no one ever. Good luck, Fulham. Thank you very much to Sean Custis. Let's go to break. All the big stories next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the final hour of this eventful edition of Drive Time. In a little while, half an hour or so, we get taking your calls. You know what we're talking about. 03444 991 1000. How do you fancy £500,000 a day being spent ferrying migrants around the country, detaining them? That's £500,000 every day, basically, for cab fares, things like that. On top of the £5 million a day that we spend to accommodate them. So £500,000 a year just to move them around the country. A day, I'm sorry, not a year, if only. Let me know what you think about that. This cost of the migrant crisis is it's astronomical. It's ridiculous. 03444 991 1000. Should we be paying £600,000 a year expenses to work from home civil servants to pay their heating bills at home? If they want to work from home, surely they pay their own heating bills. Because if they want someone else to pay their heating bills when they're working, come to work. You know, the government will pay your office heating bills. Why should we pay their... We are paying £600,000 a year to civil servants, government employees, to work at home. We're paying their heating bills so they can work at home. That's mad. 03444 499 1000. Should Andy Burnham wear a suit when he represents Britain on the international stage? Should he have worn a suit when he arrived in Ukraine? And should he play Smith's songs to long-suffering, unsuspecting Ukrainian soldiers? 03444 499 1000. I suppose it makes a change from him being in a bus garage, so we shouldn't complain too much. In a while, we're going to talk to security expert Will Geddes about some of the details of why it costs £5 million a year to keep old Ginger Nuts, Prince Harry, the Dim Duke and his wife, Meghan Markle, safe. Why do we have to pay it, though? Why is that down to British taxpayers? I'm not paying it, are you? 03444 499 1000. Right, let's go through some of the big stories of the day with my next guest. He's Deputy Online Editor at The Critic. He's also a Conservative councillor at Scotton and Lower Wensleydale. Tom Jones. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me on.
I know you want to talk about some other issues apart from the migrant crisis, and indeed we will. But first up, I'm afraid I have to ask you what you think about, we already know we spend upwards of £5 million every single night providing accommodation to illegal migrants who break into our country unlawfully. They break our laws, we give them free accommodation. God knows why. It costs us £5 million every night. Now we learned today, Tom, add to that daily expenses to ferry these people around the country, to detain them, basic expenses, another £500,000 every day. £500,000 every day just to move them around the country to the place, wherever, the free place we're going to put them up for the night, and maybe even detain them. Does happen occasionally. £500,000 to go with the £5 million we're already spending. It's astronomical. It's out of control. Why do we have a government that just doesn't even talk about this stuff?
Well, I can understand why they don't want to talk about it. You get to them. I think one of the things about immigration is I've been talking about immigration with you for a long time, and I keep saying that every day there is a fresh horror in the immigration system. And thankfully, this time it's financial and not something more serious. Because one of the big reasons the government is shutting down those hotels is that big, massive £5 million a day figure. And that's one of the reasons that's the main reason, in fact, apart from, you know, hotels are nodes for people to kind of cluster around and protest. That's one of the reasons why they're moving them out of hotels. And of course, moving them into HMOs is going to push the cost of this transport up and up and up. And that will raise the salience of this as an issue. And the only answer, I keep saying this to you, is just for these people to not be here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustration. You know, we learned this today. We already knew we're spending £5 million a day just to accommodate these people. Now, in order to transport them to their places where we give them free accommodation and free food and £50 a week benefits and free doctors and free dentists and free lawyers and free driving licenses and all that, in order to move them around the country, it costs us another £500,000 a day. It's almost as if, you know, the figures are so vast, the government just doesn't think about them anymore. There's so many areas where this government could save fortunes. It keeps saying we're cash-strapped, we're on the edge, and yet it does nothing about trying to reduce the £5 million a night accommodation bill for asylum seekers and the £500,000 a day taxi fares for them. It does nothing to reduce either of these astronomically expensive bills. That's an abrogation of governmental duty, if you ask me, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 500k a day, it's there up on the screen. It's how many taxpayers do we think that is? That's their yearly contribution just soaked up. And that 500k figure is the figure at the moment. That will go up because as we move these people out of hotels, we then have to pay for their essentially day trips to the local town. In a lot of towns, you will suddenly see in the daytime these people being bussed in and then they're bussed out again in the evening, presumably because they're a danger in the evening, danger in the daytime as well. And of course, as we get more people, as they go to more isolated HMOs where, you know, they're not allowed to roam around outside the HMO because it's a village of, you know, 500 people and there are 2,000 migrants there, that figure is going to go up because you will have to take them into the local town. And of course, the higher number of people there are in this country, the more we have to pay to transport them around.
Indeed. Let me ask you this. Let's move on. Let's talk about Andy Burnham, our dear leader. He has, with a dreary inevitability, pitched up in Kiev because, as you know, Tom, every single prime minister of this country, it's in their employment contract, they have to very swiftly fly to Kiev, declare undying love for Ukraine and commit billions of pounds of British taxpayers' money to Ukraine's war effort against Russia. I mean, I love the way Andy Burnham likes to say he's a very different kind of prime minister. He's not. He's the same as the rest. This is what they all do. But here's the big question, the important question. Here he is arriving, if you're watching on the telly, folks, on a train into Kiev. And, you know, he's wearing a sort of T-shirt and a pair of jeans. Do you think, Tom, that our Prime Minister, when he's representing this great country on the world stage, should take the trouble to wear a suit?
Yes, obviously. I mean, I can remember that horrendous incident in the White House with Vladimir Zelensky last year, I think, where he was attacked for not wearing a suit. I absolutely think on a state visit to a foreign country, the Prime Minister should dress properly. I don't want to be represented on the world stage by a middle-aged man in a polo shirt where I can see, you know, his kind of drooping middle-aged form. With all due respect to all of our middle-aged viewers, I don't want to see that, and I don't want to be represented by that. I want a form-fitting jacket that covers the sag of middle age and makes somebody look presentable, at least, and statesmanlike. I think there is a basic sartorial standard to which we should hold our leaders, and this is not it.
I put out also, I don't know if you've spotted this horror, Tom, but he's been playing a guitar, serenading Ukrainian soldiers with Smith's songs. This is serious. This is what he's been doing today. and I asked my audience for a few suggestions of the songs, perhaps. We couldn't get any audio on it because the sound quality is very, very bad. So I said, well, what songs do you think our Prime Minister should be singing? There he is, if you're watching on the telly, with his guitar. It's playing it away, twang, twang, twang. So I got a few suggestions. Somebody said anything by Madness. It's a good idea. Mark, that's Kevin Davis, said that. Mark suggests that the Smiths song Big Mouth Strikes Again might be appropriate. There's another Big Mouth Strikes Again. That's from Mark again. Hilton suggested I'm a Loser by the Beatles. We've got one from Troy, says, how about the Smiths song Panic? And another suggestion is The Great Pretender. Hang the DJ, that's another suggestion. Sarah says, what about Creep by Radiohead? You got any idea what song he should be singing, Tom? What do you reckon?
Not on this one, but I reckon in 6 months when he visits Ukraine again, with the economy going the way it is, with the borders going the way it is, I reckon he'll be playing Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now.
Yeah, I suggested that one. You know, if he carries on playing that guitar, heaven knows we'll all be miserable now. Seriously. But what do you make of his trip? Why is it that people like Burnham... I understand that we do, reluctantly, we have to fund Ukraine. We have to help them in their battle against... Russia, but people like Burnham and his predecessor Starmer and all the others, you know, Boris especially, Sunak, they all seem to assume that every single person in the country in Britain is like, wow, brilliant, brilliant, you're taking all of our taxpayers' money and you're giving it all to Zelensky to fight Russia. That's brilliant, brilliant, fantastic. We support you all the way. I don't think people do. I'm not saying there isn't a need to do this, but this assumption on the part of Burnham and the British body politic with their little Ukraine badges on their TV interviews, that we're all absolutely thrilled with the government not spending our tax money on us, but spending it on Ukraine, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I don't think people are thrilled with that idea.
No, I actually think one of the things that we're seeing here is, if you think when this Ukraine war started, you know, the British public were very, very, very supportive of it. I think they are, in general, less supportive of the war in Ukraine, actually. And in part, I think that's a duration thing. This war has now been on for longer than World War I, which is a simply incredible statistic. We are now seeing, you know, a massive extension of the war. You know, Russians are sabotaging weapons factories all across Europe. Likewise, part of this meeting is Andy Burnham signing a new agreement to allow penetrative strike missiles to be made in Ukraine. And so we are seeing an extension of this war and a rolling on and on and on. And it's really difficult to see where an off-ramp is. And it's not yet become a kind of frozen conflict like somewhere like Nagorno-Karabakh, where, you know, there is in theory a war going on, or Korea would be another great example where there's a theoretical war, but it's not really happening. And so I think the British people are starting to struggle to see where this war ends for Ukraine and Russia. And you know, you have to say that the Ukrainians have fought incredibly well, incredibly valiantly. They continue to do so. But it's difficult to see against the simple numerical advantage of Russia how much longer that they can go on for. And tied up in all of this is Volodymyr Zelensky's political position in Ukraine, which is increasingly shaky. He had one of his former aides called for wartime elections recently. That's not likely to happen, but there is a general acceptance that when this war ends, Volodymyr Zelensky's political career ends. And so there are all these kind of questions hovering about at the minute, but without an off-ramp in Ukraine, it's hard to see how any of these get solved.
I think Volodymyr will be all right. When his political career ends, he can go back to what he used to do before, starring in incredibly unfunny TV dramas. So there you go, he's sorted. I just think that our body politic, people like Burnham and Starmer, they owe us more of a... instead of just in an entitled way, taking our unquestioning support for granted, they should make some effort to explain why it is that they prefer to spend our tax pound on Ukraine than on us. They don't make any effort to explain that to us. I think there are actually valid reasons. I say that reluctantly. We do have to help Ukraine, but it is this assumption that the British public don't need to explain it to them. They're foursquare behind us. No, we're not. We're not. We want explanations. We really, really do. I'd like an explanation from you, if you can come up with one, Tom, on why it is that British taxpayers, always us, isn't it? Why are we funding £600,000 a year worth of expenses paid to civil servants who work at home to pay their domestic heating bills, so that when they're working at home, they don't get cold? Now, I would say to them, listen, if you don't want to be cold while you're working, if you're working at home, put your heating on, but we're not going to pay for it. If you want free heating while you're working, here's a thing, try this new idea. It's a bit off the wall, but you might like it. Come to work. Get up in the morning, get on the train and go to the office. Try that, then you get free heating. Why are we paying £600,000 a year expenses for civil servants to work at home? Outrageous. Why?
Because we are British taxpayers, and therefore we are the biggest mugs on the entire planet. If people can rob us, they will, and they keep getting away with it.
It's just so annoying, isn't it? So that, you know, just to reiterate, let me know what you think about this, folks. These are people who work from home. I say nobody should be allowed to work from home, be they in the private or the public sector. It's bad for business. It's bad for efficiency. I think it's culturally bad for society. Let's get back to work, folks. It's better for us. That notwithstanding, it is what it is. So these civil servants who don't seem to have any requirement to ever turn up at the office, great empty warehouse offices all across Whitehall while all the civil servants work at home. Well, OK, that's the system. I don't approve of it, but that's the system. Well, you want to work at home, pay for your own heating. The fact that taxpayers are paying for civil servants' domestic heating so they can work at home, that is through the looking glass Alice in Wonderland mad, that is. That is crazy.
Yeah. And actually, it might be a lot higher than that 600,000 because contractual home workers are also entitled to the payments. Public sector productivity has gone up by 3% since 1997, right? So that's the widespread adoption of word processors, cloud storage, now AI, you know, the widespread use of the internet. It's gone up by 3%. In the private sector, it's gone up by 40%. We have not had a war on the state, and I do mean a war. We have not had a proper war in this state since Margaret Thatcher. And really, this is just generations and generations of bloat that has gone untackled by, it has to be said, both parties, encouraged by one more than another. But the Conservatives, when they came into office, you know, talked a good game on austerity. They did not reduce day-to-day spending as much as they should have done. They did not reduce headcount as much as they should have done. There is a state that we have now that does way too much across a broad range of issues that it should not be involved in at all. And the result is we have this massive bureaucracy that then gets this insane HR worker policy alongside it to retain talent. And it's simply too big for ministers in a lot of cases to keep a hold of. So it's no wonder that, you know, £500,000 over the course of the year just kind of slips through the cracks.
Just one more expense for us. A last question to you, Tom. The Green Party, Zach Polanski, Zany Zach's party, have called for the police to be stripped of their taser guns and to have their pepper spray taken away from them. Presumably this is because Zach thinks that criminals, crooks, bad guys should be given a sporting chance. The odds are too much in favour of the police at the moment. But given that that probably isn't actually his reason, you know, this guy should stop wasting our time, shouldn't he, with this absolute insane drivel. You know, oh, let's make heroin and crack legal. You know, let's take away police's taser guns, their ability to arrest criminals. This is a waste of our time, isn't it? We don't need this juvenile nonsense.
No, Zach Polanski's attitude to crime reminds me of a quote from an Evelyn Waugh novel. And it goes, "In this new Britain we are building, there are no criminals, only victims of inadequate social services." And I think that actually is fundamentally how a lot of these lefties view criminals. They think that they're all just, you know, hard done to. They're the victim of circumstance, of getting in with the wrong crowd, etc. And they can all be solved by essentially a kind of talking therapy. You know, just if you get an intervention at the right time, you know, you get them down the pub, chat with their mates, you know, then they won't commit crime. It's simply nonsense. The point of prisons is not just to punish people, it is to separate a large percent of the prison population from society in order to protect society. We don't focus on society enough when we talk about criminals. We're all about the criminals, what's best for them, what's best for the recidivism rate. Actually, the thing that is best for society was in the old days when we had hanging and transportation, and we removed the, let's say, top 10% most violent percentage of the population at any one time. We don't do that anymore. But to go to the other extreme, where I mean, this proposal also talks about getting rid of PREVENT, the government's counterterrorism strategy, the government's only counterterrorism strategy, the end of a police presence in schools, and I think the eventual abolishing of prisons because they become obsolescent. Yeah. I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous stuff. The left is increasingly driven by events in America 2 or 3 years ago, and they've just completely imported this whole defund the police thing that was big in America until everybody realised, obviously, that's mental. And now they're trying to bring it here.
Yeah, no, exactly right. No, Zach Polanski should be put out of our misery. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Taking away police tasers and pepper spray from coppers. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. And I just think that Polanski should not be allowed to waste this nation's time a moment longer. Tom Jones, great stuff. Thank you very much. Tom Jones there, Deputy Online Editor at the Critic Conservative Council for Scotland and Lower Wensleydale. Next up, we're going to talk to Will Geddes about some of the security implications surrounding the impending arrival of the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, and their kids, Archie and Lilibet. They're coming back to live in Britain, in case you hadn't noticed. Nobody wants them to, but I guess they do. Anyway, we'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
degree of reconciliation.
Nigel Farage, I want to give credit here. I don't agree with a lot of Reform's policies, particularly on the economy, which don't add up. They would add heavily to the debt, which I think is a big danger for the country. But on this, I want to pay him a huge amount of credit. Let me tell you, I went to Calais and spoke to a lot of people, African men mainly, living in a warehouse, and I said, if you knew you were going to be instantly deported, would you come? They said, we're not going to spend 5,000 to a people smuggler to know that we're going to end up back in Africa. Of course they're not. That is that smashes the business model of the game.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to security specialist Will Geddes. Welcome, Will.
Hi, Kev. Always a pleasure to see you, sir. Thank you for an invite on your show today.
Good to have you on the show. I want to see if you can get inside. I don't recommend this as an endeavour. Inside Mike Tapp's head. Mike, against stiff opposition, is arguably the stupidest man in Parliament. Former Immigration Minister Keir Starmer, obsessionalist, a bit out in the cold now. He's a former military man, to be fair. He has written an article in the Times saying that it's time for us to remember all the enormous contributions that Harry has made to Britain, to society, to life in this country, and to forget about some of his indiscretions, and therefore it is our moral duty to fund this guy's £5 million a year security arrangements. Nobody is suggesting that Harry, Meghan and their kids don't need security. They need guards, there's no doubt about that. Even the vaguest proposal that British taxpayers should fund that, I think, is insulting. And when Mike Tapp says, look at all the things he's done for this country, what exactly does he mean? What has Harry ever done for this country except badmouthed it, called the royal family racists, and called everyone who lives in this country, all of us, slave-driving racists? What has he ever done for this country? Why should we pay a red cent towards this guy's security arrangements?
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Kev, and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, but what you were holding up there, is it his accomplishments covered on one side of A4? Because it probably is a stretch with a large font.
Not the whole part, about three-quarters of it. Three-quarters of it.
To be honest, look, I think it's really straightforward, Kev. You know, there are a lot of very, very important high-profile individuals in this country who are being protected by private security, like myself, up and down the country, who have probably achieved a great deal more in their contributions to charities, their local communities and everything else. And if Harry is not being reinstated as a full-time royal, fulfilling royal duties, helping our GDP draw visitors and travellers into this country and business, then he's not contributing or paying back us taxpayers. So he needs to dig deep into his pockets to pay for his private security, as he has done for the last 5 years.
Yeah, a lot of people say, hey, he served his country in Afghanistan. Well, so did a lot of other people.
What about all the homeless veterans?
Yeah, it doesn't. Exactly. That does not mean that we owe all of them £5 million a year tax. It's, respect to Harry for serving his country and all that. Yeah. But, this does not mean he's an eternal hero to Britain. It's ridiculous. No. Now, my point is, you'll know about this, if Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Nicole Kidman, all these big stars come to Britain, they need security. None of them remotely expect us, the British taxpayer, to pay for it. Why does this guy, old Ginger Nuts, why does he think that we should write a cheque for him? It's a disgrace.
It's a horrible sense of entitlement, isn't it? But then again, that sort of follows in their vapor trails for the last 5 years of entitlement, Kev, where they just believe that the world owes them a living, that everybody wants to see them. And I think, as you rightly said, in your introduction, the problem with the two of them, the Markles, as I like to call them, is that ultimately, that they haven't done the UK any favors. I think also the general public's patience has worn out. I think if he'd returned some time ago and said, look, you know what, I had a blowout, a burnout, whatever you want to call it, and we've all had one of those at one time or another, and as long as we put our hands up and say, you know what, I made mistakes and I want to make amends, went back to his duties, went back to supporting the royal family and helping this country. I mean, I'm a real royalist, Kev. I'm all about the royal family, although it's a complete mess, and I hope William's going to take it over and get it back into shape. But it's those off strands of Prince Andrew, of Prince Harry, that are just basically diluting the brand. And we as the general public, why should we tolerate that nonsense?
Absolutely. And it's worth remembering, Will, you'll probably know this, but people say, well, there's this kind of misimpression that what he's asking for is the same security as the rest of the royal family. No, no, no. The Princess Anne, Prince Edward, Sophie Wessex, all the other working royals, they don't get 24/7 armed police protection. They don't get it. He is asking, Harry and Meghan are demanding a level of taxpayer-funded security that hard-working members of the royal family, Princess Anne, no one works harder than her, Edwards and Sophie do hard work as well, that they don't get. They don't get the level of security that Harry is demanding, and Harry does the square root of damn all for this country. He does nothing.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's look at the 6 threats, Kevin. I'm happy to list them through as to what he was trying to justify in court for Ravek and the Risk Management Board to award him with royalty level of protection through the RASP officers, which are the Royalty and Special Protection Officers, the branch of the Metropolitan Police, who are incredibly capable and look after former prime ministers and look after sort of very high-ranking individuals within the royal family. Yeah, ultimately all of those fall apart, and many of them he brought on himself by the details that he disclosed within his own biography. Talking about his kill count of the Taliban. That ain't going to win any friends. And I don't know of any veterans. I spent some time in Afghanistan. Nobody comes back and starts saying, well, I X'd out a number of people,
Yeah, exactly right, Will. But one thing I know is the British taxpayers, there's a febrile mood in this country. If they force us to pay for this privileged aristocrat's security bill, there's going to be hell to pay. Well, people will not put up with that. They better not foot us with that bill. Will, really good to talk to you. Great stuff. Thank you very much. Will Ged is their security specialist. Now, let's go to break. When we come back, I've got messages. I don't know if I've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if I have, I'll play them out. But primarily, I got phone calls. You can add to them. Ring me, 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk for the rest of the show. And do you know why? Because it's good to talk on Talk. Stay tuned. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to the phones in just a second. Here's Joanna from Salisbury. Go through some of your messages. Joanna says, gender fluid. So, if the officer arrested someone as Jane and arrived in court to give testimony as John, how does that work? Is that legal? What about passports? Yeah, Joanne, that's a really good point. Yeah. Maybe they'll have to sort of, like, if they arrested someone as Jane using their Jane warrant card, even if the court day is a day in which they fancy identifying as John, they're going to have to go back to Jane to make the case stick. I've got a better idea. Just don't let them do this. It's absolute insanity. Here is Phil from Essex. I've got no problem with us supporting Ukraine as long as every penny that they spend goes on UK arms and not foreign arms. That way, at least the money is going back into British businesses. Yeah, that's a good point. If we must spend money, let's make sure that money is spent on British-made weapons, so at least we make some money out of it. Good point, that, Phil. And Steve says about Andy Burnham's dressed-down black outfit look in Kiev. It looks like Burnham has just come off the footplate of the Flying Scotsman. That's Steve from Mansfield. And this is Becca. She's from Norfolk, where these ludicrous new rules have come in. You can be a man or a woman, depending on what you fancy, if you're a copper in the morning. Becca says, so disappointed and angry with my local force. All trust and respect lost. It's a good point from Becca in Norfolk there. We're losing respect for the police, aren't we? They're no good at solving crimes. They're no good at keeping the streets safe. If you phone them up and say your bike's been nicked or your car's been nicked, they don't even want to talk to you. If you're a victim of crime, they don't care. And then they spend their whole time drowning in this nonsensical wokery. It's mad. Let's talk to Derek in Manchester. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Kevin. You all right?
I'm good. What would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, well, it's just something you were on about earlier on, and you were saying about Burnham visiting Zelensky and
yeah.
Why do you think he's there giving our money away? It should be pretty obvious. It's the same as the rest of them. I mean, the MPs are supposedly on 90 to 100 grand a year. Prime Minister, when Tony Blair was in, I think it was 110, 120.
No, I think he gets the Prime Minister gets about 165, 170, something like that. 160.
But I've no doubt whatsoever he'll come out. After 5 years, when we kick him out, he'll come out on as a multimillionaire, and it's pretty obvious that it's a money laundering scam. All this foreign aid is. Why on earth, when 90% of the public, if asked, would say no, we need to spend our money at home, yet MPs go against the grain and do exactly the opposite. Why would you do that unless you were making money out of it?
I don't know whether they're making money out of it, Derek, but I'll tell you, but what they find very important, and these socialist politicians in particular, but the Tories are the same, so are the Lib Dems. They're all the same. They love to signal their virtue. They love to parade their wonderfulness. Look at us, we're giving billions of pounds to poor developing nations, third world countries, starving people. Aren't we wonderful? Oh, look, we've just increased the foreign aid budget. Well, that's all very nice. But I would prefer them to take whatever our foreign aid budget is at the moment, it's upwards of 10 billion, I think, and give it to British people. These are difficult times. Why are you spending it abroad?
But you're still not explaining how they go in on such a salary.
It's not much. Look, Derek. These people come from quarters where 100 grand a year isn't considered to be very much money.
What, MPs?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Is that right? Really?
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Middle class people don't think £100,000 a year is very much, and if you live in the middle of London, trust me, it just isn't.
Yeah, well, I assure you, they go in with quite small bank accounts and come out with absolutely massive ones. But anyway,
well, we don't know that, do we? You're just saying that.
Yeah, right. Well.
I know. Mate, I'm on your side. I'm absolutely on your side.
Well, I think they're all bent as a nine bob no. But anyway, there was something else you mentioned before,
Yeah,
and that was you were talking about benefits, and in that benefits system, you tapped in pensioners. Now, I'll assure you, when I started work, I was told that when they took my national insurance off me, that was towards my pension. I didn't ask the politicians to give it to foreigners that weren't entitled to it. I didn't ask them to give it to give my.
Absolutely, damn straight, Derek. None of us voted for this, did we?
But what I'm saying is, the pension is not a benefit. It's exactly what it was supposed to be, a pension, and that's what it was, and that's what it should still be, because our money should have been invested, not given away.
Well, I mean, I think it is part of the welfare state. We have to contribute it to it. It is a benefit, but I think it's a benefit that's important. There are benefits.
It's not a benefit. It's something we've all paid in for.
Yeah, but you didn't pay. You didn't pay all of it. You didn't pay all of it, though, did you?
Well, I don't know.
Well, no. The government puts in. That's the whole point about pensions.
I'm actually still paying it, even though I am a pensioner. I'm still paying it because they virtually check my pension.
Yeah, but what I do think, Derek, and as I say, I'm on the same side as you, definitely. What I do think is the first thing this government, the first thing Labour people start talking about when they talk about reducing our grotesque welfare bill is attacking pensioners. Get rid of the triple lock, all of this kind of stuff. Well, I say stop giving out benefits, stop giving out welfare so easily. Make it more difficult. Don't tell kids aged 18 they don't have to work for the rest of their lives because they're slightly anxious or they're a bit depressed. Stop all that. Make them go to work. Stop giving them benefits. Cut back on the benefit bill in that way.
I couldn't agree more, but also stop fetching people into the country that we don't actually... I mean, that was a lie.
That too, Derek, that too. Listen, I absolutely agree with nearly everything you said there. So, very good point, Derek. Thank you very much for ringing. Derek in Manchester. Shall we go to break? Yes, let's. And when we come back, we'll take more calls. I'll read more of your messages. Peter Cardwell will be in the next 10, 15 minutes or so to let you know what he's got lined up for your do that again. Delectation, get that right. Between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. All of that's still to come, so you better stick around. Back in a moment.
Nigel Farage, I want to give credit here. I don't agree with a lot of reform's policies, particularly on the economy, which don't add up. They would add heavily to the debt, which I think is a big danger for the country. But on this, I want to pay him a huge amount of credit. Let me tell you, I went to Calais and spoke to a lot of people, African men mainly, living in a warehouse. And I said, if you knew you were going to be instantly deported, would you come? He said, we're not going to spend 5,000 to a people smuggler to know that we're going to end up back in Africa. Of course they're not. That is that smashes the business model of the game.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Quick message from Margaret in Birmingham. She says, imagine this Meghan maybe gets £1 million for a film. She'll be lucky. And we, the taxpayers, pay for her security. No thanks. They must think we are thick and stupid. I think they do, Margaret, but they're going to find out we're not. We're not going to put up with this. We're just not going to put up with it. We're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. We're not paying for those two security, even though all these socialist forelock touchers, you know, Emily Thornberry, David Blunkett, Mike Tapp, oh, we should pay for them, be yourself so humble, you know, look at everything he's done for the country, isn't it wonderful? What's he done for the country? He went to Afghanistan, respect, but he was in the army. So did a lot of other people go to Afghanistan. They were in the army, they had to go. I'm not in any way denigrating his service over in Afghanistan, respect, but that does not mean that he's done a lot for this country to the tune of £5 million a year paid for by us. Do me a favour, never, never, never. OK? 03444991000. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm OK. What was that? You want to talk about Ukraine? What would you like to say?
Well, yes, I'm listening to that chap talking just now and everything and talking about politicians and stuff. Can I just say one thing about that?
Mm-hmm.
The politicians, they give money away to other countries because it's not their money. You know, it's just easy.
Yeah, that's right. I'll tell you another thing, Jill. Because we've had Starmer, now we've got Burnham. These are socialists. These are Labour politicians. Yeah. And even the brighter Labour politicians, they genuinely believe in the magic money tree. They think there is always going to be money available for the government because they come from an ethos that believes however hard up you get as a country, just tax the wealthy, tax private sector workers up to the hilt, and you can get the money to give it to Ukraine, if you like. That's the culture they come from. Always money available on the magic money tree.
Yes, I know. And my thing is, yes, I have sympathy with Ukraine. Yes, I agree with the fact that they're standing up the Russians and everything else. But look, this country is struggling. The people of this country are struggling very much. Not the politicians, but the people are struggling. You know, struggling to pay bills and goodness knows what. And as much as I support Ukraine, and I do, we keep dishing out money and paying for weapons and all the rest of it. Andy Burnham, like Keir Starmer, forgets the fact that they should be looking after the people of this country who put the money in the pot in the first place. You know,
I agree. What I keep saying, Jill, if you've been listening to the show, you probably gleaned this point. Like yourself, I totally understand why we have to give money to Ukraine, why we have to help fund their important war against Russia. We can't let Putin just invade wherever he feels like it and then get away with it, because then he'll invade more countries. So I get it. I get it. What annoys me, though, is that people like Burnham and Starmer and all these bien pensant Westminster politicians don't feel they owe us, the people, the taxpayers who are funding Ukraine, any explanation as to why. They just go, yeah, well, we all support Ukraine, don't we? You can tell I support Ukraine because I'm giving a TV interview and look, I've got my Ukraine badge on my lapel. That's it. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. Well, I am too. I'm fed up. And the trouble is that if you say that we shouldn't put any more money into Ukraine's pocket, there'll be someone there stood outside determined and say how horrible we are as a nation. And it's not the truth. It's not the truth. We care very much. And I'm sorry, but looking over our shoulder at the Russians should be one thing. With the other eye, we should be looking at the Chinese, because there are so many countries now that I think, well, have it in for us. And when we've got a a parliament, we've got a party, we've got leaders of this country that are spending and doing what they want to do, and they're not listening to anything that the people of this country are saying.
That's exactly what I think people are furious with. They just don't listen to us. I mean, you've got almost an entire nation screaming at Burnham, just as we did at Starmer, and for that matter, Sunak and the Tories. Stop the bloody boats. Stop the boats. Do something about the migrant crisis. And he turns around and says, yeah, well, I'm bringing bus fares down and I'm going to give you 1 million mayors. Yeah, but Andy, stop the boats. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. You know, they don't listen to us. They think we're stupid, and they think we're just going to accept handing billions and billions of pounds to Zelensky for the Ukraine war without explaining it to us. I think it's an insult to our intelligence. I really do. Jill, it's always good to talk to you, though. Thank you. Another excellent call. Jill in Cornwall. Let's go to Colin in Staffordshire. Hi, Colin.
Hi, Kevin. It's really just to follow on from everything you've been saying about a total waste of money.
You're civil servants. Yeah. Do you like that?
Civil servants. Yeah, here you go. And I'm not talking about the civil servants like the police force or the prison service or the fire service and all these type. I'm on about the ones that sit in the...
Yeah, we know the Whitehall ones, the pen pushers.
Yeah, the faceless wonders.
Yeah.
I've got two of them living fairly close to me. Two ladies, they're both managers in the civil service. I don't know exactly what branch. They don't only get, paid to be at home. They also get paid for meals, and they get vouchers for food, which they take the kids to McDonald's. You know.
I'll give you a story. Colin.
And I'll tell you what. Here's another one. They get a cleaner once a week and takes the washing away, irons it for them, and brings it back. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. All right, I don't work anymore. I'm a pensioner.
But I'm sure they don't get that on the government, but you're saying that they earn enough money to pay for that, yeah?
Well, they're going to get the heating, and
they get the heating. I don't think they get the cleaning done, but us paying for their heating while they work at home is just perverse. I would say to them, listen, you want to work at home? I suppose we have to let you. Even though I personally disagree with the whole principle of working from home. But, OK, it is what it is. So we say to these civil servants, OK, you want to work at home and you're cold, put your heating on, but we're not going to pay for it. If you want free heating while you're working for the government, being paid for by taxpayers, go to the office, because the office is heated. How about that?
And they can be managed properly.
Yeah. I'll give you another story, Colin. You're talking about our mollycoddle civil servants. My dad, rest his soul, was a civil servant for his entire life. He retired at the age of about 61 on his final salary pension, but it was index related. These are the deals they get. So his final salary pension was something like 3/4 of his salary, but it went up with inflation. So within about 10 years, my dad, pension-wise, was earning twice as much as what he earned when he was working for the government. These are the deals that we give our civil servants, and it is making this country bankrupt, Colin. The civil service has got to be sorted out. The welfare system has got to be sorted out. The boats, the migrant crisis has got to be sorted out. And what's terrifying is that no one in this government, especially the Prime Minister, seems to be of a mind to do anything about these existential crises that are engulfing this country and sending us to hell in a handcart. It's really depressing. Colin, great to talk to you. Really good call. Thank you very much. Please call me again. Colin in Staffordshire there. Let's talk to one of our favourite callers, regular caller, Joan in Sunderland. Hi, Joan. What would you like to say about our civil servants and the heating bills that we so generously pay for?
Why, I would like to say something about everything, because I don't think this damn country works anymore.
That's it.
Absolutely. We're like a ship without a rudder, just floating around. We'll either go aground or sink, because nobody gives us stuff. Yeah. And I'm really annoyed about this tripe we're listening to about police officers being given dual warrants.
So they can decide which gender they want to identify as at the beginning of the day. I mean, that is insane on so many levels, Joan. It's off the scale.
Well, I think it's a safeguarding issue and it should be stopped. And as for these civil servants and having their heating bills paid for them, it's not just the elderly. When we come to heating, everybody's suffering. And people with young children, they don't get their bills paid. And as for these payments to these migrants, it's an absolute disgrace. And I want everybody in this country, when Parliament resits, I want them to look at all those useless MPs and see exactly what they're doing, how much they're doing to earn the salaries they are, because they couldn't care less about the people of this country. We come last in the pecking order every time. They're an absolute shower. What a disgrace.
Well said, Joan, well said. With you every single step of the way there. Outrageous, and you are right. Joan, a brilliant call from you there. Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Joan in Sunderland, making her feelings very clear. I think she's speaking for the nation. We're sick of it. We're at the tipping point with this government. And Andy Burnham's over in Ukraine, strumming his guitar, singing Smith's songs. Heaven knows we're miserable now. Talking of which, Peter Cardwell is in the studio.
Seamless. I thought it'd be more sort of kumbaya from Andy Burnham.
How you doing, man? What's on your show?
Yeah,
tonight?
I'm all right. We've got Blexley on the other side of the news talking about the travellers, the gangs, all the different things that are coming into this A66 crash. 12 people arrested in connection with a fatal collision. Absolutely dreadful. But there's a growing trend of people putting stuff on TikTok. We'll talk about that. Speaking of social media, Gary Lineker, really sad, really difficult.
He's doing that on purpose.
He just happens to have retweeted a notorious anti-Semite.
Yeah, but he's done it on purpose. This is now his thing, isn't it?
I'm sure it's an accent.
He's doing
it's an accent.
No, he's doing it to goad people. He's obviously doing it.
Of course not. He wouldn't endorse anti-Semitism. He's such a lovely lad. And speaking of morons, David Lammy, who gave the Prime Minister a fake number for the White House Chief of Staff, will be looking